Welcome, everyone. My name is Rick Moynihan. Gordon can't be with us tonight, so I'll be presiding over the meeting. Um, calling the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. We can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I think there's a flag behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mrs. Filipiak,
I'm here.
Mr. Klein,
Here.
Mrs. McDonald,
Here.
Mr. Miller is absent at this time. Mr. Moynihan,
Here.
Mr. Shearer,
Here.
and Dr. Warren.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Need approval of the October 12th, 2020 work session agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Darga and the Bond Planning Committee.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being with us this evening. We do have a board presentation or a workshop. We've got Barton Mallow is with us this evening to do a presentation. I'd like to welcome Jeff Atkins, Stephanie Hatchie, Dale Jerome, and Lindsay Johnson Lemieux to joining us this evening. Again, you guys have a PowerPoint presentation. I'll go ahead and turn that over to you at this time.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Darga. If it's all right with you, I'll present my PowerPoint. Just so we're kind of working from the same thing. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So thank you very much for letting us present to you tonight. We hope the information here will be helpful in you planning your next steps with the right level of content you're looking for, and we'll work within your time frame. So first off, thank you for the introductions. My name is Jeff Atkins. I'm with Barton Mallow. I head up our project planning. Work solely with K-12 school districts. Been doing this for over 20 years now. So work with a lot of school districts like yourself, planning and putting together everything to bring forward a capital improvement program. With us also Stephanie Hatchie, who is our project director for the project. Assuming everything goes well and moves forward, she'll be your day-to-day point of contact. Lindsay Johnson Lemieux, she heads up our technology portion of it. So later on in the agenda, she'll be talking to you about those details. And then also we have Dale Jerome from French Associates, who did a lot of work with you on your patch bond program. And I think he's kind of got the some of the peak stuff in here, some of the very unique options for your district of what you can do to change things moving forward. So with that, I'd like to go through a quick agenda. So we're going to give you just a brief overview of what we've done to date, just to let you know where we've been. I'm going to give you an update on the facility findings. This is the stuff like the roof spoilers and parking lots, kind of the meat and potatoes of a program. Then I'm going to turn it over to Dale to let him talk about some possible program improvements to take some of your schools to another level of what they've got. And then turn it over to Lindsay for some technology findings. And then I'll kind of wrap up the last three items to give you some information on furniture options, a cost summary, and then talk about the next steps. We built this program working towards a May of 2021 bond program. Nothing is set in stone yet, but at least we wanted to start working in that direction and give you the updates of what the next steps will be in order to make that happen. So the bond planning overview. Typically when we engage with school districts, we tell them we'll need about a year to plan and pass a bond program. So we started back in the spring and started walking some of your facilities. Obviously, COVID had a little bit of an impact on us as far as what we could do getting into buildings, but we still were able to walk through all of them, take a look around, and get a very good pulse of what's going on and gather a lot of data. Once we had that information and did the walkthroughs, we put together estimates based on what we do see out there, and we'll give you a copy of the detailed information after the meeting. We usually like to do that afterwards so that we kind of say focus on the high level and then give you the information if you want to dig a little bit deeper into some of the exact items on there. But we put together a cost summary for everything that we found there. I'll tell you that the cost that we do share with you tonight, we call them our all-in costs because they're not just the construction dollars, but they include things like some contingency, escalation, general conditions, professional fees, everything else, so that when you look at a number, that is the total cost of the project. There's no other cost that we need to account for in the bond program. And we also know that almost every district we've ever worked with, the needs and wants tend to be more than what the final budget of the project may be. In this case here, we'd obviously like to keep with a bond improvement program that is a no tax rate increase to the community. Those tend to be much more positive. A no tax rate increase has about a 90% success rate across the state of Michigan. As soon as there's any level of increase, it drops down to about a 60% increase. So for the no tax rate increase, it's much more beneficial and much more successful for school districts. So facility findings, again, these are not going to be the most exciting things to look at, but I did want to at least give you some background information, start with that. So your parking lots are starting to age and starting to really show some wear on there. Most of these parking lots were done in the previous bond program that I believe was passed in 2003. Parking lots, we usually say they got a life expectancy of about 20 years. And what we're seeing here is that the parking lots were probably built well and they're just getting towards that end of their life cycle. So exactly what we expected to see. There's start to be some failures in there, and it's time to look to replace those. We really recommend not waiting too long, because the longer you do wait on parking lots, the more they start to degenerate at a faster pace and starts to ruin some of the subsurface. So at this point, your parking lots are due or will be due in the next couple of years. So it'd be something we'd strongly encourage to be part of a new bond program. And the bottom left of the screen, you'll see a cost range. We're still fine-tuning some numbers, but we're in that approximate cost range to do some asphalt replacement and your sidewalk repairs throughout the district. Similar to your parking lots, your roofs do age, and they do tend to have about a 20-year life expectancy. Right now, your roofs are holding up very well, but unfortunately, once a roof let go, it starts to saturate the insulation that's below the roof membrane, and then your costs start to increase exponentially. So we always want to try to get to your roofs and replace those before they start to have major leaks in order to minimize what that cost is for replacement. Next is some of the interior stuff. This is just a quick high level of some things. One of the things we did look at is your, which I like this picture, it says it's your library at the middle school. Obviously, media centers have evolved over time and are definitely different than what we had when we went to school. They're no longer libraries. They're not even really media centers anymore. They're professional collaboration spaces. So we want to look to enhance that and bring that out of what they were and spend more time on those and make them more of a collaborative space, really a center where kids want to go. The high school science rooms and the flooring were also a couple other key things we wanted to look at changing out in this bond program. Your mechanical systems, again, very similar to your roofs and parking lots, is they have about a 20-year life cycle. So as you may know, back in the last bond issue, you put in a bunch of vertical unit ventilators throughout the district. And those have served you very well. They've done a lot of good. Those are towards their end of their life. So what we want to do when we look to replace those in this bond program is to do an upgrade to include air conditioning with those. Most districts these days do have air conditioning throughout. So this would be the opportunity while they're towards the end of the life cycle to replace them and upgrade them. Some of your boilers are 20 years old. The one at the bottom right here, you can see it was actually from 1992. So that boiler has served very well. Those brine boilers are just a workhorse. Unfortunately, they're not very energy efficient. So we definitely want to look to replace those when they get towards the end of life with a much more energy efficient type boiler system. So you can see the cost range here. It's quite a bit higher, but a lot of that has to do with upgrading the system to the air conditioning. Your electrical system, most of that is lighting upgrades. Your lighting in the district, a lot of districts look to replace lighting in order to save energy. The new LED light fixtures are quite a bit more energy efficient. And not only do they save the money that you pay toward Edison, they also last a lot longer. So it saves a lot of your operational and custodial time and your equipment time of trying to replace those down the road. Now, if you see the cost range at the bottom, there's a huge cost range on this. The reason being is this tends to be one of the items that most school districts scale to meet the program. Because it's not something that's critical, they're not going to go bad. You can continue to replace bulbs on there. It does give you the flexibility to add some of the wants to a bond program and then look to replace the lighting over the time through other funding sources. So this will be something that we'll continue to look at. Once we get into a lot more of the wants on the bond program, we'll scale this number to meet what your needs are. What we would recommend is focusing on some of your high use spaces. Areas like gymnasiums and cafeterias, those tend to be high use areas, and maybe even the corridors. So we'll find the right strategy for you of where you want to do your lighting upgrades. But there is a wide range of what we can do there to upgrade that. So the last item that I wanted to cover before I turn it over to Dale is your athletic fields. I think most of you have probably had some discussion at one point or another about updating the high school stadium. In order to do so and do it right, it requires shifting around some of the events that are out there. So it is a full replacement of that. We've included that in the bond program, and also some upgrades to your middle school, to the track. So this will allow us to really do that full scale upgrade of your stadium, the track, the turf, the bleachers, the press box, all those things. So before I turn over to Dale, so my stuff was pretty straightforward. With the stuff that I'm going to let Dale present on, we really are looking for some feedback on these items. We've got a lot of concepts we're going to talk about, and we want to understand what you do and don't like, because we'll need to right-size this bond issue at some point. So we're hoping that there's things that you have some feedback. So we can either discuss those at the end, or if you want to stop Dale along the way, you can talk about that. But we are going to look at different items and different options for those. So, Dale, I will scroll through here. You just let me know when to click.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. And thanks for letting me share these ideas. I'll just share that these are definitely early concepts with no preconceived solutions in mind, really just to try to guide some thoughts based on what we heard, what you might like to do to provide some additional educational opportunities to your students. So starting at the elementary school level, we're looking at the idea of the possibility of being able to add a STEM lab at each of the elementary schools. And as you probably know, all of your sites are fairly tight. You don't have a lot of additional real estate, but you also are pretty much maxed out on the use of the footprint of the building in terms of classrooms. So the idea of giving up a classroom to create a STEM lab is probably not desirable either. So in this first aerial image of Arno Elementary, really there are two options and where we could potentially locate a STEM lab. And one is better from a site perspective, and the other is better from an interior and how it affects the footprint of the building. So just looking at the A and B yellow highlighted rectangles, those show potential location for a STEM lab addition at Arno. And maybe if we just flip to the floor plan, Jeff. So here you see the floor plan of the school. And as I've highlighted there on the plan, the upper left corner addition fits better into the floor plan of the high school, but it does impact parking. Some of the existing parking, there's a small bank of parking spaces on that side of the building that would potentially be lost. And then on the bottom of the plan, you see where it could potentially be located next to the media center, but that flanks existing classrooms. And so we would be losing outside windows on those classrooms by locating it in that position at Arno. I think we can go to the next plan, Jeff. This is the site image of Benny Elementary. And again, a very tight site with not a lot of additional areas where additions could be placed. I just highlighted the image with that red dashed line. That is a setback from the railroad tracks that has to be adhered. And you can kind of see that is the parking lot follows that line. So that's one of our constraints. So really it looks like there's two potential locations, either within the courtyard space or along that lower left-hand corner. And if we flip to the floor plan again, Jeff, here you see it in the floor plan. The location that I think would be best from a plan standpoint is possibly within that courtyard space in the center across from the cafeteria and the media center. But it would require us to relocate some existing, an outdoor structure that was just recently placed there, but that's not insurmountable. And then on the lower left-hand corner, again, we are kind of limited with that angled boundary adjacent to the railroad tracks. So either one of those locations could potentially work for the STEM lab. And I would just highlight on the floor plans that the lighter yellow rectangle represents the STEM lab itself, and then the darker golden adjacent just are indicating that we know that when we put on a lab addition, we're going to potentially have to have some type of corridor or vestibule connection or an electrical closet or some type of tech closet. There's going to be other related spaces in addition to the STEM lab proper. So those are the darker gold rectangles that I've indicated when I've placed these in plan. So if we go to the next school, Jeff, at Lindeman, the existing courtyard that's closest to the media center and the office area of the building has a pretty well-established playground area that we didn't think it made sense to disrupt. So over next to the gym and cafeteria is probably a better location for that. So if we flip to the floor plan, Jeff, you see that again right across from the gym. Really the only thing that would happen in that courtyard area is there are some fairly large, well-established trees, which while they're nice to have there might be, from a facility standpoint, a little bit of a blessing in disguise not to have all those leaves and the impact of the trees affecting the longevity of the roof on the school. So that seems to be the most logical place to put the STEM lab at Lindeman. Then if we jump to the next image, at the middle school, I just put this in there for reference. We can probably jump right to the plan image. So one of the thoughts that we've talked about in the assessment and what things might look going forward at the middle school is whether or not we would repurpose the pool area for things like junior robotics, a STEM lab, and it added, in addition to the media center upstairs, another collaborative learning zone within the footprint. And there's certainly a great opportunity to repurpose that pool to really accomplish all of those types of activities within the middle school environment. So, and then the two like ellipses that I kind of indicated in plan are just suggesting that it might make sense if you're going to do something unique to the curriculum on the inside of the building. It might be a good idea to express that on the outside of the building as well, so that people know that there's something new and different going on inside the middle school environment. So I'm just suggesting that there might be an opportunity to add a feature outside of the building to acknowledge what's going on inside the building. I think we can switch over to the high school then, Jeff. So lastly, at the high school, one of the main things that I looked at was the idea of trying to provide a robotics lab within the footprint of the high school, or if need be, possibly look at some additional space. So the yellow rectangle that I highlighted is actually detached from the footprint of the high school and adjacent to the restrooms and concession building of the athletic field. So if we switch to the floor plan, Jeff, I can kind of explain what the thinking is there. One of the possible areas that we looked at for the robotics lab was the current choir room or vocal room. It seems to be quite small to accomplish what you would want for a robotics lab. So as we looked at other places where that might be able to occur, part of our discussion was also that there might be a desire to increase the size of the weight room that's at the back of the annex to the high school. And so one of the options that we've proposed here is to actually take the current weight room, make it into the robotics lab, and then move the new weight room outboard, if you will, and pick up that weight room space, potentially put within that weight room footprint some type of flooring that would allow for agility to do some indoor training for outdoor drills and things like that. I also think there's an opportunity to enhance at the same time the concessions area and the restrooms for the athletic fields. So, you know, I think it gives you an opportunity also to free up the weight room for potential community use. So if you want to have access to that, they don't have to go through all the normal secure entrance and travel through the footprint of the high school to get to the weight room if you want to make that available for community use. So the idea of outboarding that was one of the things that I thought might be worth considering at the high school. And I think that was pretty much it. I did have a floor plan for reference in there of Riley in case we wanted to get into any questions, but I didn't have any additional items to highlight on that plan. So with that, I don't know, Jeff, if you want to keep rolling and come back to questions if there are any, or not sure what your pleasure is.
All right. Well, no, thank you, Dale. I appreciate you. I just put a little summary slide in there. Again, right now we're talking still 30,000 feet of what those spaces may be. So we wanted to give you at least a snapshot of what those cost ranges could be. You know, there's a wide range in what we can look at there, but you know, these are all great improvements that we could do, and you know, we can look at where we want to fit those in. I would think the STEM additions are probably towards the lower end, but I'm thinking at the high school, it might be towards the higher end because there's a lot more things we can pack into that space. But just want to kind of wrap up that part of it. But I do want to come back to that towards the end to get some feedback on what you presented. But right now, what I'd love to do is turn it over to Lindsay and let her talk a little bit about technology and the stuff that she's identified and categorized in the project.
Hello, everybody. So I have done kind of an assessment of your current facilities, and I have to say that your technology program is fantastic. The items that I'm proposing today are really for expansion and kind of a sustainability throughout the years in the programs using the bond dollars wisely. Safety and security is something that always comes up with bonds, and I know that you once again have done a really good job keeping everything safe and secure, so we could just look into just a little bit of an expansion. If we wanted to add doors for intercoms, video intercoms around the schools, we can do advanced notification for emergencies for police. There's all the way up to these police pull stations that schools are putting in buildings to just, you know, displays around the building for lockdown. Jeff, if you can go to the next slide. So in the work list that we've put together, I've really just expanded the video surveillance to fill in the spots that may need some extra coverage, or to cover the places in which we are expanding these new STEM labs or the field. The same with expanding access control. That would be your card badge system where you can fob into the different doors around the district. You know, if there's other doors that you would like to add, we'd just be expanding the current system. When we replace the PA systems, this is another opportunity to include some expansion for those emergency notifications. A lot of districts are going to district-wide all calls where the superintendent, if something happened, can just lock all the buildings down at one time and do a PA announcement for all the schools. And then, of course, that emergency notification for the police. So this is kind of a scalable thing depending on what you feel is appropriate, but definitely the expansion for the video surveillance and the access control is where we're going. That's why the cost range is the way it is right here because it's scalable. Okay, Jeff. The next was the technology infrastructure. So these are all the items that aren't really necessarily fancy and, you know, awesome, but they have to be done in order for your technology to work well in the buildings. So right now, everything actually works really well with your network. So we would just be expanding your network servers in order to capture any of the the extra computers that are going in, or if there's a new phone system and new clocks, it's just going to help with the expansion of those devices. And then Series 2, since your current ones still have some shelf life, we wouldn't replace anything until Series 2. That's when the network infrastructure should be replaced and the wireless infrastructure, just based on date. Replace the UPSs, those are their power supplies in the closets. So this kind of lets your system grow and be replaced in a timely manner so that it's still good for the next 5-8 years after Series 2. Okay, Jeff. Another thing we looked at was classroom equipment. And right now, these are current classroom photos in Allen Park. We have some projectors on carts, and we also have some wall projectors. I know that there are some pilot program rooms that have put in some interactive displays. And Jeff, on the next slide, this is kind of what we're proposing, to continue putting in those interactive displays into all the classrooms and all the schools, and even add in the height adjustable mounts so that if you have students that are in kindergarten, they can adjust the display so it's shorter and they can write on it, and then the teacher can move it on up because they're not the same height as a kindergartner. Same in high schools. Some of those high school students are quite tall and maybe the teacher is not, so we can adjust it as appropriate.
We have the height adjustable mounts, Lindsay. You guys,
Oh, you do?
You guys worked with us on those when we installed them in the pilot areas, and so we took your advice. And the teachers really like them. We have the electric ones.
Well then, see? They're well liked, and so we should just follow suit and put them in all the rooms.
We're good listeners, if nothing else.
Well, I approve. Thank you. And then I know that the one-to-one Chromebooks were kind of rolled out in the fall. And in this work list, we kind of built in some series replacements because Chromebooks also, once again, have a shelf life. So to just make sure that we have some sustainability, and now that we have the funding, we can roll out some, new Chromebooks down the road. Okay, Jeff. So this is kind of laid out what I just said. There are a few other options that we can replace document cameras in the classrooms for the teachers. This might help with the whole, if down the road in 2 years we're still teaching from home or in a hybrid, document cameras are helpful on that, as well as just in the straight classroom setting. And then the classroom sound systems, these are the speakers that would be above in the ceiling tiles, and then the teacher would wear the microphone lanyard around their neck, and this just enhances their voice, so the teacher doesn't have to strain and talk over the students. There was a request to add technology lockers for charging, so this would be kind of scattered around the buildings. You can lock your Chromebook in there and charge it and come back and pick it up. So these are all the options, and the cost range is just because of the refresh of the computers, the Chromebooks. If you choose to separate that out and use a different funding source, that is always an option too. Okay, Jeff. And then past the classrooms, we also have presentation spaces or collaboration spaces. So these pictures show some current media centers in your district, and these can kind of be used in a slightly different way. We can kind of update the furniture and add some technology. I know already that there are some spaces that do have the big interactive boards or some sort of display. But Jeff, can you go one more? There is an opportunity to use these spaces as more of a like a huddle space. So all the way to the left, in the middle picture, we can have spaces where students can work in small groups if you wish. These don't have to necessarily be giant displays. They don't even have to be interactive, but it would allow people to connect or cast their Chromebooks to these displays and kind of work in small groups. And then, I mean, if you so desire to go something as drastic as the picture on the right and, you know, do the whole wall is a writing wall and lots of displays all over, you know, that is always an option. It's just a new way of looking at these spaces to get them utilized in a better sense. And then I have a few pictures of the maker spaces just to show you what the possibilities are. And then the next one is another possibility for a gym space. So these pictures kind of show, it does show a product called Loo. It's a way to turn your gymnasium into an interactive space as well. So it's basically a projector, an interactive projector in the ceiling mounted. It projects to the screen. And it's interactive in the way that the students actually have to throw the ball to hit whatever is projected in order to, advance in the game. So on the bottom left-hand corner, they're in teams and they have to solve the equation and throw the ball and hit the right answer in order to advance and gain points. So it's a great, very fun way to kind of get your gym classes thinking about academics and kids moving around, having fun. These are things that can be used for in a champions or after school latchkey program during gym class. The equipment actually comes with flashing lights and things, so you can use them for school dances. They're very versatile, but that was kind of something fun that we could use in this kind of setting. And then I just have one more slide, just a continuation of the different items in the work list. So we talked about the AV, some sort of gym or cafeteria sound and presentation systems. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Loo, but especially in like the high school, but if that needs to be redone. Conference rooms, big screens in rooms where maybe IEPs are presented or, the staff is together and would like to display something. Digital signage around the schools, if you would like to use that, and casting some sort of message throughout the school, showing pictures, sharing events. And then I have that gym interactive projector as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lindsay. And the last section I'm going to take is the furniture and equipment section. This is something, in my opinion, over the last maybe 5 years plus, this has probably been the biggest thing that's changed, I think, in school education that we've seen. Similar to how technology was a huge impact 15 years ago, I think furniture is that next type of change. One of the things I'll point out is that with a bond program, you can include furniture replacement. Unlike a sinking fund, you're not allowed to, but a bond program, we typically do include furniture and equipment replacement for your buildings. So I've got a couple pictures of what your existing buildings look like. Very traditional, stacking chairs. They kind of scratch across the floor. They're very heavy. They don't move very well. So what we did is we looked at what it would take to replace those with newer furniture, more collaborative furniture. And also tried to account for some dollars to replace some band instruments and athletic equipment. Those are all areas we like to touch, and there's only so much we can do to make sure we touch everybody. And furniture is one of those ways where everybody can be impacted by the furniture and equipment changes. So some of the ideas that we're seeing in the high school and middle school level, mobility is the number one thing. We want to be able to have those students be able to move around. Obviously, today in COVID, this would be very nice because we can move students all around in the classrooms, but This allows kids to very quickly move in their space to get into different groups, into different arrangements, depending on how they want to be presented. So we're seeing a lot of this at the secondary level. At the elementary level, it's more about choices. Those students, each elementary student has a different way that they want to sit and learn. You can see some pretty extreme examples here. On the left side, they've got some cushions to lay on. More in the center of that picture, you see some of these wobbly stools for students that just can't sit still, but they can focus if they can, part of their body can move. There's a lot of different ways that the elementary students can be impacted. And I think you saw a lot of this stuff in the slides that Lindsay presented earlier too. This kind of goes hand in hand with the technology and space. So that was hopefully a lot of information, but we try to be as brief as we could with it, but still give you a flavor for it. So hopefully you weren't writing down numbers, because I do have a cost summary sheet for you here. So looking at all this, there's some cost ranges, and depending on the highs and lows, we can be anywhere from 61 million to 77 million. And I believe working with your financial advisor, the district can go for a bond program just under $70 million with a no tax rate increase. So we've got some options to add some of the stuff that you saw today. We can't add everything you saw, but we definitely can add a lot of what you saw and do a lot of great things with this bond program. But what we need to do is sort of fine tune it and have some discussion to tighten up these ranges and to finalize what the scope would be before we would want to share it for the next level. So what are the next steps? So as I mentioned earlier, we typically tell school districts it would take a year to properly plan and pass a bond program. So right now we're 3 or 4 steps deep into the bond planning process. Right now is where we want to start to finalize what that scope might be. We have a meeting tentatively scheduled with the Department of Treasury in the second week of December to review this with them to make sure that everything we're talking about is appropriate. So we do have a couple months to have some back and forth discussion on what the program would be. In January, the district would approve that final plan, and you're required to call for election 12 weeks prior to that election date. So if you did want to go with a May of 21 bond program, it would be the first week of February that you have to call for election. So we are on track with that schedule, and we see no reason why we can't manage all that and file all the paperwork we need to. A little more detail of what those next steps might be is we've got some time for some Q&A here. We want to get your feedback on this. And then we'd like to come back to you in your November board meeting to present a little more refined draft of what we've talked about here today, fine-tuning or adjusting anything that we hear. On December 4th, we'll have to submit a bond application to Treasury for a meeting on December 11th. Department of Treasury takes about a month to go through and cross the T's and dot the I's. They want to make sure that this bond application meets all the letter of the law so that when you bring it to your voters, there's nothing that can be scrutinized as far as a legality standpoint. We looked at your January 25th meeting as your call for election. That gives us a backup just in case of a snow day or whatever it might be. We can move it to a first week of February. And then your informational campaign would take off from there. And we'll be happy to talk to you more about the campaign phase of it, a future meetings of what that means and our strategies for that. But today, I think we want to stay at the plan process of that. So with that, I'm pretty much wrapped up with what I had.
Hey, Jeff, could you bring back up the slide 2 slides ago, the one right before that one? That's kind of got the, there you go. I think it's important, and first off, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate all of you, your time tonight to kind of help, give an overview. I think it's important to remind our board members as well as our guests viewing this evening that may have joined us for this work session, that we're still in the facility assessment stage. We're just wrapping that up. I just want to make sure that our community, as well as our anybody who may be viewing, as well as our board members, understand that we're now getting ready to go into that program development as well as community collaboration aspects of the next project. Sometimes when we have these kind of meetings, people lose sight that this is just an assessment. It first needs to have Barton Malow as well as others come through the facilities, looking at our facility, engaging kind of where we're at, and sending in their representatives to speak with our people to kind of help give us an idea of the direction we may want to take. And that's an extremely important process. That's one of the reasons why we enjoy working with Barton Malow so much, taking these steps to kind of send their people out. Then they come back to us just like they did tonight and kind of say, hey, here's where you're at. Here's what we think we might need to be able to tweak. But then the important part comes in where we then reach out to our staff members who actually live in these spaces on a daily basis. We go to our community, talk to our community about, the big plan. Because before you know it, May's coming up pretty quick, and there's been a lot going on as it is. A $70 million bond is outstanding, and it's a huge area of pride for Allen Park Public Schools to be able to move forward. We've not been able to do much of anything since our first previous bond of 2003. So a lot has to get done, but we also realize just going through this piece, which was extremely helpful for our citizens as well as our board. $70 million is a lot of money, but when you're going through a project like this and you're trying to hit 7 different facilities as well as outside facilities, it goes pretty fast. So I'll go ahead and open it up to board members. Again, the administrative team was looking at the slides. Also, a couple of our building principals, of course, wanted to make some notations on the STEM labs and possible alternate spots and things like that. But again, that can come back a little bit later time when we're looking at some of those. But I want to make sure I did voice some of those concerns. But more importantly, it's an opportunity for our board now to kind of just walk through, what they've seen and ask any type of questions they may have. I wanted to take a minute just again to say thank you and re-explain the process of, again, this was the facility assessment aspect.
Thanks, Mike. I think, then thank you very much for the presentation. We'll go like we normally do, per personnel, one person at a time can ask the questions. Please remember, we do have a time constraint on this particular meeting. We got 20 minutes. So please make your questions as concise and short as possible. Okay, thanks. We'll start with Sarah.
Hi, thanks, Rick. I am confused about the pool at the middle school. Can someone talk to me about that? Like, where's it going? Are we getting rid of it? I don't understand.
If we were to look at expanding this space, we would no longer have the pool at the middle school. The middle school pool itself, the teams would then be transferred over to the Allen Park High School pool. This is an area that we've discussed in the past slightly, about the pool facility, the expense of the pool facility, as well as it continuously breaks down, things of that nature. What we're looking to do is create a space that more students would be able to utilize. To create a maker space like this, we'd be allowed to have virtually all students, all 900 students would have access and be able to use this facility compared to smaller groups within the phys ed area. And again, it's just a concept at this time.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure if I'd missed something. That's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Jeanette?
Okay, I'm looking at the athletic facilities, and I just want to make sure, because I don't see it on here, about the retention basin. Is that still something that's needed? And I remember that was a pretty big cost.
Yes, yeah, I think Foresight Design had been working with you previously on some of the items for the athletic field. So yeah, we got a hold of their information and discussed that with them. And that is a concern at all the buildings. That's actually part of the reason why there's a large cost range for the additions, because when we put the additions on, we're putting more hard surface there. We're gonna have to create some new retention there. So yeah, unfortunately, there's a little bit of a domino effect, but I think we've accounted for it in these areas.
And along those same lines, are you going to be able to keep it away from underneath the playing field?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure. Yeah, so at our last meeting that we had, they were actually looking at putting those in different areas, not necessarily underneath the actual playing field. You can utilize some of the end zone areas. So there was some options. Again, we're working with our contractor on those placements. And those meetings have been taking place at Allen Park High School with the coaching staff, the ADs, and administration.
I think they call that the D zone, Jeanette. I feel like we talked about it at the one of the meetings. The area off of the field that's like kind of behind the end zones.
Yeah, just so we didn't have to replace all the turf should something go wrong.
And it was something where, because I remember you had an experience with that or talked to somebody about that, and they were going to put it where there was a seam at the back of the end zone, so they wouldn't have to rip, the turf would be fine. You just rip it up at the seam, replace whatever the retention pond was, and then move on from there.
Okay. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeanette. Mr. Klein?
Yeah, I always hear the word STEM and I get excited. So STEM space, tell me a little bit more about, just so you know, my background, I'm actually the regional STEM director for Macomb County for K-12 education. So when I hear STEM, I get excited, but is it, when you're part of it, is it just building out a space and equipping it with furniture, or are you actually putting some specialized equipment in there, or does that become, where does that become district vision and where does that become Barton Malow vision?
I'm gonna let it start with a French vision, so I'm gonna let Dale start with that.
Okay. Yeah, I think for the most part, we want to create an environment that reacts to what you want to do in the space. So I think as we move forward with finalizing the plan, certainly after the bond issue were to be successful and passed, we would really sit down and talk about what you're going to try to do inside the space and make sure that we provide a space that's the right size, the right shape, has the right finishes. And then, of course, furnishings is an important part of these spaces, as I'm sure you know, based on your background. And really just do everything we can to create a space that's appropriate and equipped appropriately for what you want to do inside of it. The actual implementation of curriculum and what you do on a day-to-day basis within inside the space, we typically wouldn't try to, design or create that aspect for you, but we want to make sure we understand what you're planning to do so that the space is appropriate.
Cool. Well, Mike, I want to be on that committee.
Yeah, I knew you would. One of the other fun things that we've been able to do, and again, I appreciate Barton Malow helping us out, but they've scheduled tours of some really great facilities in our area that have these spaces available, and it's neat to see how different schools utilize the space. And once we get to that point, we will obviously create a committee and send those committees back out to visit some of those spots. And again, that's something that we appreciate. It gives us kind of a on-site view of what our space could look like. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Another quick thought, just to sort of define, like, how would we understand? We worked with districts that knew that they wanted to, for instance, use Project Lead the Way curriculum, and we know that there are certain grade level offerings within that curriculum. So we made sure that the STEM lab in a lower L could do things that were maybe a little different than what they could do in an upper L environment. Or if it's all in one place, then we actually have to have flexibility to do all of those things. Then that adds a question of, do we need to do something outside of the STEM lab, an outdoor component? So really, we want to understand, the curriculum and the activity to make sure that the space reflects what you're going to do.
Okay, so if we've got a team that's super excited about innovative vehicle design or some kind of, robotics linked to autonomous vehicles, we can kind of design in different ways.
Absolutely, sounds exciting. When do we start?
Yeah. When do we start?
And we've included some allowance dollars for equipment to be bought out in there. That may change. It may be more cabinetry, it may be more equipment to be able to use, but we've set aside that. So it's not just building the space, we've set aside dollars to buy the equipment to fit out that space too. But that just may vary depending on the actual curriculum.
All right. I should probably cede the floor. We've got 12 minutes left.
Yes, thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Dr. Warren?
Mike and I share a similar love for science. So yeah, sign me up for that, because my they're hurting from smiling so bad about that one. So I did overhear you say that the bond would not increase the tax rate. Can you explain that for me?
You want to take that, or you want me to take that?
So right now our taxpayers are paying 12 mills. So this no cost bond means that the mills would continue to stay at 12. So there would be no increase to the taxpayers.
Thank you.
It would extend.
I would like that spread out so people understand, so I appreciate that. I did see, Mr. Dargo, where you pulled up the one, which I really like, that it said community involvement. which of course I'm a big fan of. But can we make sure that we do have teacher involvement as well, especially when you're talking about picking out desks and furniture and stuff like that. So, they're the ones in those spaces making sure. Does that good?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about a little earlier. Again, they're the ones who live there.
Yes, that's okay. That's what you were saying with that. Perfect.
Okay, and that's where their teachers come in and our coaches and anybody who's involved. And again, we will also be going off of our old strategic plan, pulling some pieces in from there. But yeah, we still have to have full staff involvement and community involvement.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I have 2 more quick things. The athletic facility, I definitely got to hear a lot about that, and I'm super excited about it. I get to see so many of these kids that get hurt on that field. So I'm excited that we're looking into things to help with that. And I saw that you might put the STEM lab, for example, in the old weight room, which would be amazing because then they'd have to be able to get in and out right from that door, which I think is perfect. But in the new athletic facility, would you be putting in locker rooms for like home and away?
So that's something that we've been talking about, and I think that's why there's a variance in that building outside. And that's something that, in all honesty, I need to go to the professionals. I need to go to our coaches and our AD. Mr. Dawson has been leading up some meetings. Coach Donofsky's been very involved with all of our meetings at the high school of the actual facility, and that's why he's also jumped up. We want, we want to do it. We want to do it right, and we are looking at expanding that space out there to be able to accommodate possibly a home locker room, again a weight room, the concessions area, bathrooms. Yeah, we're looking at kind of a nice little grand entrance out that way.
Listen, my husband already wants to play again. You're going to really make him want to. He's going to hurt himself. He's going to suit up. But he'll be there. He'll be just, you won't even know he's short. It'll be great. And then my last thing is, if you could, I saw, like the restrooms, absolutely, like things that need to be looked at. But I would also take a peek at some of the home ec kitchens, those, especially at the high school level. I haven't seen the middle schools in a while. And then the refrigerator units, which are expensive in the science area, where they store some of the things that we're dissecting and stuff like that. Those might need to be looked at too, that I've seen walking through. Just an FYI. That's all. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Mr. Shearer.
Hi, thanks, Rick. I had a few questions. One, if you were building a brand new school from scratch, are there things they put in those schools today that you just can't get into an old building? Or can you really put everything into?
My first thought on that is, when we're building new schools today, we give them a little bit more breakout collaboration space. So instead of seeing a long hallway with just classrooms on both sides, at some point they'll break it up and there'll be a little spot for them to, as they go out in the hallway. You probably see it all the time. Kids are out in the hallway taking a test. It gives them a spot in there. So that's, while we can have all the components, that's probably the one thing that the only thing I can think of that comes to the top of my mind that we just we can't do at this point.
I know I just retired from Ford, and they were putting in maker spaces, and they were really popular because it gives a chance people to just randomly meet, and they were coming up with ideas on their own. And we also had the one you showed where the the two the benches, and then you've got the computer screen up above them. I've used those. That really came in handy. I don't know personally, some enclosed glass rooms where kids can work in groups, maybe, I don't know, but I love that, the big whiteboard, all that stuff. So that seems to be a trend. I had a question. I didn't see anything in here for food service, improving the equipment, service procedures, any of that stuff.
Those are areas that we'll continue to work with, again, as in the planning process. The district itself, though, has been working close with Karen in any of the needs that she may have. We've just purchased a couple ovens. So as needs arise with Karen in her area, the district has been assisting, but we will make sure that we look at all areas. Again, when we get our committees together, Karen and her crew will be a part of that as well.
Okay, gotcha. Do they, assuming there'll be another pandemic in 10, is there ways you can design this building to be ready for it? Like lunch distribution cafeteria design. We couldn't have a worse cafeteria design for COVID. Is there things you can build into the classroom in the school so that it's not such a, oh my God, what are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah.
The one thing that does come to the top of mind, we did talk about doing some more touchless fixtures. So for your restrooms right now, it's a small thing, but it is something that we want to do, is to make sure that the faucets and flush valves, that they're touchless so that they automatically flush, so we're not spreading germs back and forth. I think the mobile furniture would be very helpful.
Yes.
It's very easy to reconfigure the space so that if this did happen again, it wouldn't be a matter of a team of custodians that are there to move everything and have to find a place to put it. I think that would be helpful. So those are two things that come to the top of my mind.
Is there any discussion out there on how to design cafeterias for social distance, or it's too new?
Yeah, I've just seen a lot of plastic screens being put up and a lot of plexiglass. That's all I've seen right now. I haven't seen a better solution yet. But if there is one, we'll let you know.
Is there anything like built-in disinfecting stations in a classroom instead of ad hoc? Make it a little more permanent.
Yeah, I'm guessing those will come out as the need is, and there's a demand for it. And everybody just scramble to pick everything up they could right now.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I can see in the future that right next to the pencil sharpener, if there isn't even pencil sharpeners anymore, would be a station just like that.
Yep. Okay. So that was just my concern. Can we redesign the buildings to handle a pandemic better? And then the updating is important. That there's got to be some exterior updates, just to say we spent $70 million and, hey, look at this. Like last time, the way they redid the entrances and made the buildings look more modern, that's nice. So,
unfortunately, you're a victim of your own success. You've done such a nice job that the buildings do look great. But we did talk about with these STEM studios, they would look different. We wouldn't want to just make them blend in intentionally. We'd want to make them stand out intentionally, so people would see those and say, there's something new going on at the school. So that was something we did talk about.
All right, two more questions. One, trades, expanding trades education. We don't have electrician programs, plumbing, and then really alternative energy. That's a huge new business. Those guys, windmill techs, coming out, you can make $100,000 a year. So I don't know if, I woodworking, great, automotive, great, but what about the other ones? So that's just food for thought.
Man, I hate to cut you off, but we only have 3 minutes, and somebody might take a break.
No, I'm good.
For other meeting, so could you wrap it up?
Mm-hmm. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for the presentations. Any other questions? I'm sure that we can get a hold of Mr. Darga if the board has any other questions, and he'll be happy to answer them. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll take let's see, it says 2-minute break right now until we start the next meeting.
And we just stay here, don't we? We just stay online.
Yeah, we're just staying right here if you want to.
Thanks, Barton Mello. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much for letting us present. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Have a good night.
Good evening. Welcome to the October 12th.
According to Merriam-Webster,
Whoops, sorry.
definition of reliable.
The October 12th board meeting. Mr. Miller is unable to attend tonight, previous engagements. Plus it is his birthday, so we'll give him a break today. Happy birthday, Gordon. If you happen to watch this later, we didn't forget about you. Being the senior member, as far as in years of service, the gavel's handed to me, not because of age. So I do think that I probably qualify for both of those requirements. We'll start the meeting out with a little note here. I'd like to welcome you to a virtual meeting of Allen Park Board of Education. Please know administration and members of the Board of Education carefully considered meeting in person versus a virtual meeting this evening. While on October 3rd, the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that Governor Whitmer lacked the authority to declare a state of emergency under the EMA after April 30th, on October 5th, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Director Robert Gordon issued an emergency order restricting gathering sizes, requiring face coverings in public spaces, and placed limitations on bars and other venues. Within the new order, the limitations on the size of indoor gathering is noted as only 20% of the normal capacity in the venue with fixed seating. That would mean if we, excuse me, that would mean if our regular meeting was held in the high school's LGI room, we could only have 18 audience members. If held in the auditorium, we would be able to accommodate 98 audience members on the main floor and 30 in the balcony. Given the recent interest in the return to in-person learning plans and other topics, our last Board of Education meeting had 350 viewers. It would be problematic to turn away anyone from a public meeting as it infringes on their rights under the Open Meetings Act, and that would be a distinct possibility given the capacity limitations compared to the average Zoom viewers from recent meetings. At the September 14th meeting, we averaged 390 viewers, September 17th, 625 viewers, and August 10th, 800 viewers. The board appreciates the interest and participation of the community. For these reasons, the board opted for a virtual meeting this evening. During these challenging times, our school community continues to stay strong. On behalf of my colleagues, we appreciate and value your interest, passion, and input. Please continue to keep your focus on taking care of yourselves, your families, and each other. This evening, citizens who wish to express public comments may do so by accessing the online citizens comment form located on the district website. The homepage has a link that will lead you to the form, as well as to this evening's agenda. Your comments or questions pertaining to an agenda item will be read during item number 7. Comments or questions pertaining to non-agenda items will be read during item 11. Comment forms will be accepted up until the time of the meeting. Prior to this meeting, board members and presenters ran a test of the system. Please note that no business took place. It was merely a technology test. And now if we could all join in with pledges allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which republic stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Barb?
Mrs. Klippiak,
I am here.
Mr. Klein,
I'm here.
Mrs. McDonald,
Here,
Mr. Miller is absent this evening. Mr. Moynihan. Mr. Scheer,
Here.
and Dr. Warren.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We need the approval of the consent agenda items, approval of the October 12th, 2020 agenda, approval of registers from 9/15, 2020, 9/16, 2020, 9/24, 2020, 9/29, 2020, 9/30, 2020, and 10/8, 2020. Also, approval of wire transfers from 9/10/2020 through 10/9/2020.
Motion.
Second.
We have moved and supported. Any discussion?
Only in that if we want to have, like, I don't think we have any conversation in here on our current return to learning plan. Is that something we can talk about today? How does that work?
If you would like to add something to the agenda, you can add it, and then we'll take a vote on it to see if we would just change this motion to approve the agenda, the new agenda. So if you have an item you want to put on there, you can present it now.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to see us. Like, I don't really know. I don't know exactly what I'm asking, but I feel like we need to at least talk about where we're at with that plan. I've had an enormous amount of conversation from parents and families around our return to face-to-face, and I know there's been some conversation around, looking at maybe hybrid plans and some ways to try to address some of this. Is that something that we can add to today? I guess I would love to talk about it today. Is that something we can add?
Yep, we could add that under new business.
Okay.
Under what business?
I would think under new business, we can re-add
Under
that.
Does that need to be seconded?
Okay, so we're going to
I would
add.
second that.
We're going to add under new business B number 2, early graduation, and the discussion on return to school.
Yeah. Could actually even go under old business either way.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah. As I look through the agenda,
Okay, so now the vote will be to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda has been approved and amended. President's communications, I have none since I'm not the president. Not sure if he has any. And now we go to Sarah for the reading of her communications.
I just want to acknowledge a multitude of communications received by community members and teaching staff as well. Those communications were received and read by me and other board members as well.
Okay, thank you. Citizens' comments, Mr. Tefelsky.
Yep. So we have a handful that are pertaining to an item on the October 12th agenda. So I'll read those here. Sue Bowling, I'm concerned that we have COVID confirmed cases with the high school football team that has less than 100 people meeting outside. What will it be like once you are putting 800 to 900 students back in the classroom with not the proper ventilation? Robert Jones, today our kindergartners had their first day and it went great. Thank you to the board for allowing our children to return to in-person learning. For those parents that are complaining about returning to in-person learning, you had the option like the rest of us to choose virtual at the beginning of the school year. If you don't feel safe, I respect that and keep your children home. The majority has spoken in the past in the parent survey. AP parents want our children in-person learning at their schools. Bob Crank, I apologize if this question has already been answered tonight's meeting. My son, a sophomore student at Allen Park High School with a compromised immune system, is nervous to go back, so he asked his mother and I if he could stay home for the first 2 to 4 weeks. When asked, the options came through with various resources. 1, virtual schooling, 2, unenroll him from AP Public Schools, and 3, I quote, his doctor may have to put him back on homebound. Why can't APPS come up with a plan to help all students, not to just those with compromised immune systems, to slowly transition back into school as they feel comfortable? Virtual school is not an option. Virtual school is an option for some, but asking parents to unenroll their children from APPS and suggesting a student who already has spent months on homebound years ago is unacceptable. Let's do better by our kids. Jennifer Artris, will students have a remote option with AP teachers if parents decide to keep home? And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Darga, personnel.
Personnel. We are recommending that the individuals as listed be employed. The candidates were interviewed and recommended by committee. As appropriate, background checks have been conducted. Suggested motion that the recommendation for employment and services be approved by the board for the individuals as presented. Katie Elsterbrooks, lunch parapro Benny. Robert Baker, skilled maintenance operations. Delaney Burgess, A.M. Lasky, Lindeman. Cassandra Darren, lunch parapro Benny. Kaylee Fowler, A.M. Lasky, Arno. Kristen Gobis, breakfast supervisor, Allen Park Middle School. Amy Heath, independence paraprofessional, Lindeman. Jean Ketcher, lunch parapro Benny. Abby Nerva, assistant preschool teacher, Lindeman. Kelsey Riley, lunch parapro Benny. And Mary Ann Smiley, long-term special education sub, Allen Park High School.
So moved.
Support.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay,
Decker,
discussion.
did you, I did not hear you say Kathy Cargill.
She declined the position.
She declined, okay. Thank you.
Good catch. All those in favor?
Bye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Number B, retirements and resignations. We have received and accepted the following resignation. Kathleen Ricook, lunch parapro, Lindeman.
Thank you, Mr. Darga. Move on to number 9A, old business. Update on COVID-19 relief funding with Tiffany Keith, our Director of Finance.
Hi, everybody. I do have a quick presentation to show if that's okay with everybody. Try to share my screen. Just let me know if you guys can see this.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So this is just a quick update on our federal funding or CARES Act, as everybody knows. The second slide here just talks about the buckets of money that we have received. We've received ESSER formula funds in the amount of $159,244. And the items that we purchased for these funds were the teacher devices and a portion of the student desks. And then the CRF funds or coronavirus relief funds. These are Section 11P funds. And we received a little over 1.3 million. Items approved for these dollars were the non-touch Chromebooks that we just received from Stratix. And then we still have our order for the touchscreen Chromebooks from Firefly. And then the balance from those two items would also go towards the student desks. And then another part of the CRF funds, which is just Section 1032 district COVID costs, is actually how it's labeled on the funding source. And the items approved there is basically we've just used that for cleaning supplies and equipment for our return to learn plan. To date, those expenditures, including our electrostatic sprayers, is $48,000. And then we just ordered the ultra barrier boards for the student desks. Hopefully those will be in this week before all students return to school on Monday. And that was almost $85,000. And then our daily screening checks from Clear to Go is a subscription that we pay quarterly. So for the year is about $3,000. And then the last slide is just like a little balance sheet that kind of shows our buckets of money, what the total federal funds are, and then what we've spent them on. And then we've actually spent $268,000 over our federal funding, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you want to spend your federal funding so that you don't lose those dollars. And then that 268 would just be expenses that we would incur through general fund or enhancement. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
We'll start individually again, and this time we'll start with Pat since I had to cut him off last time.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Tiffany, so is this saying, so this is incremental money we've received for COVID.
Yes.
We spent it all and we're over by 268.
That's correct. This
Is
is
there
just
any more coming in?
not that I know of right now. That
Oh,
doesn't necessarily mean no.
Gotcha.
I just don't know yet.
Gotcha. Okay, and gosh, what was the other one? Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Pat. Dr. Warren.
I just wanted to thank Tiffany. I had a lot of questions about the funding and where it was all coming from. And you made me a beautiful highlighted color-coded sheet for me to understand, walk me through it. So I just really appreciate your time in that because it helped me understand exactly where all this money was coming from. It scares me being a business owner and seeing all these dollars exiting. So I am very happy for that. And then you said that we're 270 over that we spent.
Yeah.
And we have that. And you said that money is coming from either our general fund or an enhancement fund.
Correct. So this is just the federal portion of that colorful little balance sheet that I've been kind of keeping tally on. It's kind of messy, so I kind of wanted to make this a little more professional looking. But this is just that federal portion, like taken out of that, if that makes sense.
And I mean, I obviously know we spent that money, but we do have that money, those funds, right? That's not freaking you out, because if you freak out, I freak out.
No, I am currently not freaking out right now.
Okay, thank you.
Well, not financially, at least. I guess I should rephrase that.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. Mr. Klein.
Yeah, I'm glad Tiffany's not freaking out. 270. What was the per child allocation that we received for the addition? Was it $85 or $65 a kid extra?
I think it's $66 a kid.
What does that come out to for our district on that? Just roughly.
It's about 250,000. Yeah, it is 60. It's a one-time payment of 66 per pupil. So I'm guessing with our super blend formula, it's gonna be about 250 grand.
So it's so that sort of is the cover. That's the wash there. Okay. And just know we're gonna be looking at the nurse in a little bit. So
Right. And we're also not losing any of our per pupil foundation for fiscal year 21. So that's also a huge relief.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. Jeanette?
I'd just like to thank you, Tiffany, for this sheet. I love seeing where this money's going, because like you in previous meetings, I know I freaked out, and you maintain the calm. It's like, okay, let me just see this and get my arms around it. So I appreciate seeing that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, Tiffany, you always do a great job. Thank you very much. The slide definitely put everything in perspective for everyone, a little cleaner, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Did a nice job on it. Everyone knows where the money's coming in and going out.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for the presentation. And next we have consideration for district school nurse position. Mike, you want to take that over?
Yeah. Well, we're grateful to have our Wayne Reesa nurse consultant at our disposal. The on-site presence of a district-wide school nurse may be something we want to consider for this school year to help serve as a bridge between the healthcare and the education system. There will be multiple challenges for staff and students as we return to in-person instruction and the daily presence of the medical professional to address the ongoing impact of COVID-19 pandemic, to provide infectious disease surveillance, and to look after the physical and mental health of students and staff is a worthy of careful consideration. Back in August, administration provided a brief proposal for an on-site school nurse to serve the district. Since that time, the pros and cons of utilizing a staffing agency versus the possibility of a position within the APEA were shared with board members. Some details shared were the potential for a layoff position if no longer desired, as well as the cost benefits for a direct hire. We have researched 4 different staffing agencies, all with similar salary ranges, which include salary/contractor fee, benefits, workman's comp, liability and insurance, and credential, backgrounding, and drug screening. Potential staffing agencies provide the option to finding the candidate or district posting for the position and referring them to the staffing agency for employment. The district would have the opportunity to interview all candidates. EduStaff district determines the hourly rate plus 20% admin fee. Soliant is a $65 per hour. Futures Education is also $65 per hour, and Career Staffing Unlimited is $60 per hour. The district would be charged/billed for only the hours worked. No holidays or school breaks are paid. In consultation with legal counsel, due to the potential liability issues, it is recommended that this type of position is not filled by volunteers. Although board members received a listing of responsibilities for this position, the key responsibility will be serving as the liaison between school personnel, family, community health care providers, and Wayne County Health and Human Services to ensure a healthy school environment during the COVID-19 pandemic. This includes manage the temperature screening program and track results, direct liaison with Wayne County Health Department, track community spread in Allen Park, Wayne County, and the state, stay updated on CDC recommendations for the managing the virus, monitor the number of school outbreaks in Michigan and nationally, research all outbreaks for lessons learned for Allen Park, oversee district and school notifications, responsible for following Wayne County case scenario protocols, manage the execution of the protocols. At this time, I invite the board to discuss the concept of employing the services of a school nurse through a third-party contractor. The suggested motion that the Allen Park Board of Education approve the proposal to interview and employ a district-registered nurse through a third-party contractor for the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year.
Motion?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
I have a quick question. And I guess Mike or John can answer this one better. How many weeks do we have in the school year?
How many weeks left in the school year?
No, total.
39.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out if it would be, I mean, I know that you sent us the thing about, I'm just trying to figure out if we had this person on ground all the time. I mean, obviously I know that then we have to, pay the extra for retirement and stuff like that. I'm just trying to figure out the cost difference. That's all that I'm looking at. So
Right.
that's why I got my calculator out, trying to figure it out. I'm a money person and I want to yelling at me later.
Yeah, we can try to get Ms. Keith to work on that as well. Again, with our breaks and things of that nature, how many actual weeks? We've already been out for about, roughly 5 weeks or so. So we'd be looking at more of around that 30 week range, possibly.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking like in my head, like if we had this person full time, they could have been helping us with some of these issues,
Already, yeah.
So just a thought in my head. Sorry. Thank you.
I have a question. You said the key duties are surrounding are COVID related, but that's not exclusively what we'd be using that person for, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they would assist with all of our family plans, the beginning of this year, school years. The school nurse from RESA comes in and works with all of our teachers and our families, going over 504 plans, IEPs, and safety protocol plans. That would also fall on their shoulders as well as many, many other things.
Okay, so we would not then be using the RESA nurse for the duration of this person's employment?
I believe we've already paid into the RESA nurse, finances. We still have access to the RESA nurse. They're still available to us as needed.
So we'd have both the RESA nurse and this new person, should we need it.
Like I said, I know we've paid in. Again, we pay a fee for the nursing services. So at this time, if we continue with a current nurse, we would still have the availability of the RESA nurse as well as our current nurse. So we'd have two nurses.
Okay, because I know as a former employee and registered nurse, we had plenty of medical issues that were not COVID related. So, it's a big job.
Oh, it's very big. Yeah.
Especially with the contact tracing now added to it. Okay, thank you.
Michael, want to chime in?
No, I don't have any additional questions this time. It would definitely be an RN, correct? I think we had some conversation about it last time, though. It would be registered. Okay, a registered nurse position. Thanks.
Patrick?
What's your estimate for the total cost then?
I defer that over to I think one of the things that we'd have to work out with Tiffany is really just if we decided to go, it's really more about if we did the third party, which third party, there's different rates, and then, figure out, kind of the time spent, compared to a direct hire. So we will have.
I like to hire an agency. I just didn't, when I took the $65 per hour, I was trying to do the hours and see how much that all adds up to. I mean, you got it. Can you give me a swag?
So is there 1,098 hours in the school year? So I just did 65 times 1,098, and it's like 71,000 and some change.
That's right. I gotcha.
I just estimated 70 grand because then I figured holidays and breaks that they're not working.
Yes.
So I just put that to a nice round 70 grand. And then depending on what third party we go with, if there's a markup fee or not. So that 70 grand, if we stay with EduStaff, could be 84 grand with their 20% annual fee. Versus a direct hire, you're probably spending about 135,000 with retirement, FICA, and then the optional benefits.
Yeah. So I should have been paying closer attention, Mrs. Keith, but that was already in your spreadsheet?
It's on my messy balance sheet. I mean, it's got a lot of notes. It's kind of where I've been tallying up everything.
Got it.
But
Does it add to the 260,000, or is it included in the 260,000?
So it's not in that 260 because that's just the federal part that we have actually either ordered or have received at this point. It's just on that messy sheet of kind of like a laundry list of ideas.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Stuff like that.
Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Sarah, any comments?
I just have a quick question. Is the pool of nurses at these places going to be people who have school-specific experience? Because being a school nurse has a lot of nuances that someone who may have just worked in a hospital or doctor's office may not be, especially with immunizations and all those different tracking things that you have to do. Can you talk a little bit about how any of these services, like what they have to offer us in terms of school-specific nurses?
When we work with these companies, especially the third-party contractors, that's something that we'll sit down with them and kind of go through their screening process. This is a new process to us also. We did some basic information. Elise Grant did an outstanding job of contacting these companies, talking with their reps just about the possibility of bringing someone on. We would then, after being given approval, then meet with these different companies and actually go through the actual screening process. And I think they kind of tailor make the process to our needs. And so if we need school specific, a nurse that has that in their background, that's something that we could then request. I'm sure it will cut down the candidate pool though.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Darga.
Lots of good questions. I agree with the third party, especially with the way the economics are going to take one on full time and inherit those legacy costs because they never go away until I think we're a little more financially set, make a better decision if we want a full-time nurse on the staff. With that, we'll move on to introduction of new business. Mr. Darga.
Did we actually?
Oh, you know what?
Motion.
Right. We had a discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Mr. Darga.
All right, very good. Early graduation. Per the board policy 8440, a student may request board permission for early graduation with reasons supporting his or her plan and request. Students must fulfill all graduation requirements. Examples of reasons to be given consideration are hardship, vocational opportunities, enlistment in the military, pursuit of continuous specialized education objectives, and college entrance. The student is requested to provide student written requests for early graduation, including rationale to support his or her plan, accompanied by a supporting letter from the parent or legal guardian. The counselor is requested to review the student's records and transcripts and to ensure that the student has met all state and local graduation requirements. Mr. Kelly and Mrs. Ming are in support of this early graduation request. Note, please refer to student as identified on supporting documents as early graduation student 2020-21-1. Rather than by name, if there's any discussion, this request is to take advantage of a college scholarship opportunity which begins this spring. The suggested motion that the student identified as early graduation student 2020-21-1 be approved for early completion of high school effective January 22nd, 2021, provided all state and local graduation requirements are met.
Motion.
I'll second.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. We'll go around the board again. If there's any questions, Sarah? Dr. Warren?
I have one question and one comment. Graduation student 2020-21-1. We did have issues in the past, just making sure that mom, dad both approved, right? Okay, I just want to make sure so we don't run into any issues there. And I do know student 2020-21-1, and what an awesome opportunity. So I'm super, super excited, and I, love that college choice too. So good job.
Mr. Klein?
No, just congratulations to the early graduation student on their scholarship. That's awesome.
Ms. Jeanette?
I agree. Congratulations to this hardworking student. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm glad that we can provide that for this student.
Mr. Shearer?
No, it's awesome. Go man, go.
That's it?
Or woman. I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to number 2, discussion to return to school. Mr. Darga.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Klein, as he's the one who added the agenda to kind of start up the discussion of kind of where we're at, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. I guess first, thank you to the K2 teachers and the 6th grade teachers that were back face-to-face today. I know it was not an easy day, so thank you for your time and for your dedication to make that happen today. So my reason for bringing it up just is my concern that, as we roll back into this, I know we now have one day in, but there are still some pretty significant pieces that I don't know that we've really ever addressed. Currently, our plan doesn't allow for any form of social distancing. We've sort of blown that out and just said we're not going to do that. And that really I'm still not really comfortable with that. It still puts us in learning environments where we're not really going to be effective. When I look at a K2 classroom, putting 25 kids or whatever it is in there sitting in desks with masks for 6 hours a day, it doesn't work really for a kid that age. It's not a good way for them to learn. It doesn't make sense. I don't know that they're actually going to pull off a lot of academics in that time anyways. And our current plan doesn't really do a good job of giving choice to families. So if you're a family who was nervous about going back, your choices now really are to go to Calvert, which has not been really well received. I know that the emails I'm getting are across the board concerned that they just don't feel like they have an option. They can homeschool, they can pull out from the district, they can do the Calvert thing and try to make that work, but they're struggling with that. And so I just don't know that we have really good choices for those parents right now. And so those are kind of the 3 things that when I look at this plan and when I look at a return, I don't think we're really addressing those. And that causes me a lot of concern. And I don't even know if we'll be able to staff, right? I suppose that's another issue too. If you look at that, some of these teachers we've got some teachers who have very serious health issues or have family situations that aren't going to allow them to return, or they're just super uncomfortable with the whole lack of social distancing and inability to social distance. And so I'm just worried we're going to have staffing problems. I'm sure we're stretching our limits today, and as we roll into a full return in a week, if that comes to be, then we am still worried about staffing problems. So those are kind of the concerns I have. I don't know that I have some solutions. I don't know how to implement them. I don't really know what our next steps are, but I just felt like if we don't at least, bring these forward and talk about it, we're never gonna make progress in this area.
And I can go ahead and give them a little bit of an update. Administratively, the administrators within Allen Park, as well as our board members, after our last meeting, there was a lot of dialogue that took place, within the school systems and across the community itself, and we heard loud and clear, and I agree with you, Mr. Klein, based on the information received back from our parents, who would like to see, more options. We can get into, and I'd like to remind, obviously our parents as well as our staff members and the board, we did do a survey back in July, and a lot's changed since July. And that's one of the things that I want to recognize. But in late July, when we did our survey, again, vast majority, overwhelmingly majority of all of our parents who did the survey at that time wanted to be back in school in person. We did talk about during the survey, and we can always reshare those slides, but the data is on the website. We did offer an option for a hybrid plan, that would allow some more choice for the families. But again, with our parents being pretty strong about the idea of coming back full in person, the hybrid option actually ranked number 4 out of 4 choices. We also shared the exact same survey with our teachers, and the teachers also had the hybrid option at that time, ranked the 4th option. We then created our plan and looked into our plans based on the survey data. Now, we also realized a lot has changed since late July. And therefore, again, going off of the discussions that we've had, and again, Mr. Klein, you've kind of voiced this along the way, talking about different plans, talking about options. And our biggest, one of the biggest areas in our plan that we knew we would not be able to accommodate, and we were very transparent with that from the get-go, was, class sizes. We knew that we were unable to properly social distance the 6 feet apart in our classrooms, but I'd also like to remind, that the governor in her plan, it was not required to space 6 feet. It was strongly recommended, in many schools, as I stated before, in the downriver area are unable to do that. But they did create different plans, and that's the idea that we started to look at here in Allen Park. After our last meeting, I reached out almost immediately to Mr. Klein to start asking him. Mr. Klein's got a lot of contacts in a lot of other districts. He's very well connected in the Tri-County area of, what plans are out there that we could look at. We've also had other board members, Ms. McDonald, as well as others, have done some of their own research with contacts that they have in neighboring districts such as D7. We've looked at West Bloomfield now through Mr. Klein, as well as others. Huron Schools is another one. Based on that information, we kind of started to put information out to our own administrative staff, saying, hey, listen, we're starting to kind of revisit the hybrid plan. What could it look like? And that started getting out to our teaching staff. Priscilla Zen is one of our middle school teachers, and Priscilla kind of took this under her wing, and she's actually created a committee. She decided she was going to chair the committee. She let me know that she was going to chair the committee and help chair it. She started to put together a list of our teachers, and we've also included our administrators, and I just sent her 3 board members' names, I think this past Friday. We've got Mr. Klein, Ms. McDonald, and Sarah Flipiak is also on that team. And I did let our board members know that we were creating this committee. And if other board members wanted to serve, they could, but we just have to separate out different groups, so we didn't have more than 3 at a time. Actually, this last Friday, Mrs. Zen created a quick Zoom account and just hosted a real fast meeting. Many of us were not invited at that time. It was just one of those issues, kind of gathering information and getting people on list. She continues to receive names throughout the weekend. I believe they were actually looking to host another meeting today of just, again, bringing people together. We'll now start to formulate an actual committee, plan. We are looking at hybrid models. There's several different models out there. I think there is a plan out there for Allen Park. I think we can take a plan that currently exists, and I think we can tweak it to meet our needs. We will be getting, obviously, we've got plenty of staff input, but we will be looking to get our community input also, because hybrid plans can be tricky. There's some out there that offer a half-day plan where the students come in for half day, then they go back home, and there's different blocks. There's also plans like in D7 where some students stay home all day and they are with their current teacher. So they'd be with an Allen Park teacher learning the Allen Park curriculum. Right? Other students who wish to be in school are able to come on the campus and again go to their classes with their teachers at a reduced class size that meets the social distancing guidelines. And that's kind of what we found throughout Wayne County. So there are models. I am excited to say that we are looking at options, and we are actively doing that at this time.
I would like to say that Mrs. Zen did hold a meeting today, and Mr. Klein and I were both present at it. And we did get to share ideas back and forth. There's a lot of research that the teachers are putting into this, but you know, everybody's kind of interested in, you know, are their efforts, you know, are their efforts going to be supported, or just where are we with all this? So I told them, you know, in my opinion, this was the next step. We had to bring it up at a board meeting, get approval here to see if, you know, the majority of the board wants to review this type of thing, and we start, you know, building from there. So that's where we are as far as I'm concerned, you know, to see if what the interest is at this point. I think that with some of these plans, like I told you, Mr. Darga, I think we can create a win-win-win situation. It's not perfect, but it would certainly offer more choice and reduce these class sizes, some of which are at 35 students.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited. You know, we've got a great opportunity, and I tell you, as the word got out and we started to share to our building principals that we're looking at this committee, I mean, honestly, you know, teachers at all levels, K-12, were sending their names into their principals to get, you know, moved over. And I know that, you know, some of our staff members were worried that they didn't get to go to the first meeting. They thought they were left out, and I responded back to the building principals. You know, I didn't even get to go to the first meeting. You know, but again, it's a process, and we're just getting it rolling. I was happy to hear just now that we had a couple of board members that were able to actually attend today's meeting. We will continue to do that, and the whole idea is, you know, getting support from the board to be able to look at instructional options. Again, it is our next step, and it depends on how we want to roll that out. I envision the fact that this new committee will be, you know, obviously teacher driven, along with our board and administrative team working together. There's a lot to do. We all know this will not come within a week or two. This is going to be a process, but I think the idea is then we have our members of the committee do a presentation to the board of the plan that we feel meets our needs. After the presentation and an opportunity for board members to ask questions, we would then, I'm hoping, have a motion to adopt said plan, and then figure out how do we unroll that, allowing our parents then to have the option to either stay at home if they feel that's a safer option, or to be in school. But there's a lot of staffing issues that we have to work through. There's a lot of hidden nuances that we have to work through, and we will be relying on our neighbors who have these types of plans to help guide us through those questions.
I agree. One of the biggest problems that we found today, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, is that this committee has gotten so large.
Yeah.
There is a great deal of interest. The staff wants to help find a different solution. And I do believe that time is of essence, because with school slated to start, you know, for the rest of the elementary and middle school next week, there are still plenty of parents who just are not comfortable sending their kids. And what we heard tonight was that there are still a number of staff members that are in that same boat for health-related reasons. So,
and I agree that, you know, and I continue to get, you know, both, you know, community concerns as well as staff concerns expressed to me on a daily basis. I will say that I'm proud to say that I was over at Arno Elementary this morning, watching the kids, you know, get ready for their day, and the staff at Arno was outstanding, prepared with, you know, doing their temperature screens, extremely welcoming atmosphere to all the students and parents. Parents were extremely excited to see each other. Everybody was social distancing, you know, masks were being worn. I walked the halls, I visited, obviously the middle school, there are sixth graders, and they were doing outstanding. The staff is extremely excited to be back in the halls. So again, not all of our staff was there, it was just our sixth graders were there. I then went over to Lindeman Elementary and visited classrooms there as well. But that being said, you know, we've got obviously just, you know, like our survey, we have a lot of community members who want to be in school, a lot of students who want to be in school, and we have an equal number who are not ready to be in school, and they do have a lot of concerns. I think one of the biggest decisions that the board will face in coming up is making a decision of how to proceed. And I think that comes through, of just realizing either we proceed with an in-person as we are, knowing that we're unable to social distance at this time in the classrooms, or we really start to revisit the idea of our current plan of in-person instruction, and should that go back to a remote plan. And I will say the remote plan was working very well. I think it was across the board. Our parents, our students, and our teachers were in a groove, and it was working. I'm not saying that they liked it. A lot of our people do want to be in the building. But again, I think that's the biggest question of how do we proceed? Can we proceed with our current in-person instruction plan that we have approved and we are doing, or do we revisit the idea as a board and look to go back to a remote instruction until this new committee formed is able to do a presentation and adopt a new plan going forward?
So let's do this. So everybody gets a chance to voice their concerns. We'll go around the board again. Is that all right with everyone? Sarah, would you like to start?
Yes, I would like to start. I first would like to say that I have a lot of mixed feelings about this because high school class size is a concern to me. I saw pictures from the buildings today, and the pictures that I saw, it looked like things looked okay. I'm concerned that those, the barriers for lunchtime haven't come in yet. And before we have any like mass quantities of kids at the secondary level, I think that's essential that those come in. But in terms of the hybrid model, and I'm just confused right now why these concerns weren't, and I don't require an answer either unless someone wants to give me one, but I'm confused why these things are coming up now. We have a plan that we approved. And if we're changing the plan, I don't know that this was the best way to go about it, because this is a forum where parents and teachers were not informed that we were going to be discussing a change in that plan. The canceling of classes is already putting our families at risk. And by not being, our families who have planned on this, and I understand the safety concerns and the risks at that end, but being decisive and making a plan where parents can plan for their children should have been done at the last board meeting. So to me, this is a backpedal. And although I never objected to a hybrid plan, I don't object to a hybrid plan as something to have in our back pocket if this doesn't go well. And I'm not opposed to making changes. I just don't really care for the format under which we're doing it. It appears disorganized. And it also appears that we did not have a plan. We didn't have a plan to have this on the agenda. So we don't have, the community isn't here for this discussion in my mind. So that is what I object to about this. Developing a hybrid plan, that's something we should have done months ago in my mind. I'm going to stand by what the community wants and what is best for our students. And we agreed to a plan. That's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you, Sarah. Mr. Scheer?
Yeah, I got a little PowerPoint I'd like to go through.
I'll have at it.
All right. Let me see if I can conquer the technical challenges.
How long is this going to be? Just out of curiosity.
10 minutes tops. Oops.
Your time starts now.
No pressure. Okay, can you see my screen?
Oh.
No, Pat, did you put the present now in the bottom right-hand corner?
Probably not.
And that would just
Okay, present now. Got it. Your entire screen, a window, a Chrome tab.
Just do your entire screen, and that way it'll make it easier.
Okay. And then if I make my screen.
Pat, if you move your mouse, it should towards the bottom of the screen. you should see an area where like a gray bar appears across the whole bottom. And it has like on the right-hand side, it says present now or turn on captions. Do you see anything like that as you move your
I
mouse
see
around?
present now. I see present now.
Hit that. Hit present now. And then you
Okay.
can choose what screen you want to show or your PowerPoint.
It says your entire screen, a window, or a Chrome tab.
Probably a window or a Chrome tab if you've got the PowerPoint ready to go. You should see a picture of the PowerPoint. Just click on that.
Nothing? Yeah, come on. Present now your entire screen. Chrome wants you to share. Share.
Yeah, I think you should have practiced this earlier.
Man, let me get my kids down here. They can tell me. Yeah, you should have seen me trying to change my voicemail message. Share your.
If we move on until you figure it out.
Yeah, we can move on to.
Oh, that could be days. Can you see it?
There we go.
Yay! Call me Bill Gates. So I just wanted to say first, I think the district has been listening. One of the complaints last week was too many unanswered questions. So I know Mr. Darga and Barb put together a 16-page information packet that included the infection protocols, and I thought that was really thorough. I know the team meetings with the principals and the teachers, and then the individual return to school updates from the building principals I thought were really good, and the newsletter. So I think great job, shoring up this communication. I think adding the temperature checks to the elementary was a nice change, delaying the busing. I think that's good. That's the last thing we need to worry about right now. The Chromebooks, fantastic. Distribution is an unbelievable task. And I think it's been clarified that parents can still opt out to virtual, and there is no waiting list for virtual. I heard that from a few people in the hybrid teams working, so I think that's great. So I think I was just trying to say here, the district is listening. This is COVID, the latest COVID stats. Allen Park's at 421 infections and 33 deaths. They just had another death on October 1st. It had been 32 since August 29th. And here's the average. So it's still out there, but I think the treatment is getting way, way better. I did get this study just for info. I looked at this as 13 states in the District of Columbia. And the way to read this is COVID, the effects of mask wearing. So here's COVID infection rates, and then they implement mandatory mask wearing, and then this becomes the COVID infection rates. So this data was generated to prove that masks do help. So they've got data on that now. I just checked CDC to see what the latest was on kids getting COVID, and their update is still that kids do get it, and they can spread it, but they are again still they would say less apt to have symptoms or less apt to get severely ill, but you got to watch out for this multi-inflammatory system in children. So I guess the science is still out, but I hear people say, "Oh, kids don't get it. That doesn't matter. They can't transmit it." Or I hear the opposite. So I was trying to figure out what the facts were. Some other updates, just some trivia stuff. Ford and GM are going to work from home till June 2021. I heard on the radio yesterday. We are going to be having Halloween in Allen Park, so we got to be careful with that. I toured Benny Lindeman in the maintenance building, and they got PPE, disinfection stuff, everything. Pat, the team's done a great job. We got everything we need. Benny Lindeman, and I just looked at the classrooms, fifth grade classrooms, and, it's worrisome. I don't know if, I didn't know it at the time, but every desk is going to get a 3-sided protector. So I think that will help. I know there are a lot of concerns with kids dropping their mask while they're eating, but every desk will have a 3-sided protector in front of it, so minimize the transmission while those masks are off. I tried emailing CVS and Rite Aid to get a COVID testing event, but I didn't hear anything back. I'm gonna take another run at them. Just for FYI, I looked at CDC mask requirements for school. The CDC lists masks at recess as may be considered and not the mask recommended. So they have one column says they list all these scenarios and they say masks recommended or masks may be considered. It was just interesting. The masks were in the may be considered at recess. Just so people know, the citizen comments aren't responded to at the board meeting. That's just the policy. You need time to sift through them. And I don't think, maybe it wasn't clear from the last meeting, but the ventilation system's been inspected and certified. We're more than we more than meet all the different requirements for ventilation systems. So that said, I don't know if there's been any response. The 50 million, I heard the governor of Florida last night, he got 500,000 instant test kits. I know Trump said we're going to get 150 million instant test kits. I don't know if any of that's, have you guys heard anything on that or any updates from the state or? No. Okay, so supposedly that's coming. I did notice, not all classes are at 35. It looked like in the elementary, the most I saw was 27. Not that, that's still crowded, but. And you were saying, Mr. Darga, I think you told me the kindergartens do meet the requirement.
The kindergarten classrooms are one of our larger classrooms in the district, and so our teachers are able to space those those tables out farther. Plus, again, obviously kindergartens they're smaller, so those rooms are larger to begin with, which allows them to space out more adequately compared to other classrooms.
Are there any other classes where, like, is every classroom packed, or are there other ones where they're at maybe 19 or 18 or 17?
Yes, some of the class sizes vary, of course, but we do have larger class sizes also throughout the day. So some of our class sizes will go down into 19 or 20, and then their next hour, let's say, if you're a middle school teacher, you may have a class and then give them a little bit of a break with maybe 18 or 19 kids, but then the next 4 hours a day you might have 30.
The whole thing. I see. What's the average, typical absenteeism in a day in school?
We've run real well. We're usually in the mid to high 90s absenteeism across the board. Today, our first day back, just with the classes in session, we're in the high 80s. We range around the 86, 88 range in the elementary buildings, and our sixth grade was actually, I believe close to 95%, and sixth grade. So almost all of our students in session at sixth grade.
Sure. Is there, and you answered this earlier, I know, Mr. Darga, there, somebody was wondering, are there specific requirements on masks that says this is what your mask has to be to enter school?
We continue just to refer our parents back to the CDC site. There's differences. Some people want to wear those gator masks, they'll kind of pull up, and a lot of those gator masks have not been certified. And so there's a little bit of information on the CDC site about those types of masks, as well as others. But mainly what they're just trying to say is cloth masks, that fit snugly, but they are able to breathe. So again, we just try to put in all of our literature to please follow the recommendation by CDC.
Okay, thank you. Is there a discipline rubric for non-compliance on mask wearing and social distance?
So what we're looking to do is work with the families, individually as that happens. We do know that depending on, some of our students may have difficulties. We are working with doctors and students that may have asthma. We have options, different types of PPE available for students that may have, an issue wearing a mask. But we are trying to work with our families. We are being, flexible in these first couple of days. But the reality is we are trying to create a safe environment, and we are asking that all of our staff and students wear masks.
Got it. Okay. Oh, I see. An option for if there's some person that medically can't wear a mask. Got it. The elementary day being long, 7 hours, the kids sitting in the chairs, I think that's a big concern.
Yeah, that concern was expressed, and that was that the Allen Park administration is working with the Allen Park Education Association, the teachers union, to relook at that and revisit that plan. Mr. Berkey and I have been working on that along with Dr. Tefelsky and Jerry Lafferty, the 5th grade teacher. The four of us are trying to get, pinning down some language, and should have an updated version within a day or so.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Do teachers' desks get plexiglass?
So what we let our teachers know is that when we order the smaller ones, if they wish, because they do make a larger size, they can indicate. I had a couple teachers within the last 2 days indicate that they would like them. Some of our teachers were trying to be proactive, and they were doing different things around the desk. And unfortunately, some of that stuff we were unable to allow happen. And
Sure.
So teachers, we're working with the teachers to try to get larger areas. The problem is a lot of these Tri-County folds don't really fit a teacher's desk because of the length of the teacher's desk. So I did contact a company on Saturday that's actually out of Madison Heights, Michigan, and they do make plexiglass to order. So we've got to have someone come out and actually kind of more measure the area to see how that would fit.
Sure.
They do have them at the kidney tables where they're doing small group work.
Oh, very good.
We did order those.
And, John, do you think those would fit teachers?
I don't know about at the teacher desk. Tiff, did we get those in last week, or maybe I was talking to Pat about that Ward. But yeah, I believe we ordered those.
Very
The
good.
board?
The plexiglass dividers for kidney tables. We can check on that, but
Yeah, we'll check.
Okay. No, it's and the 3-wall dividers. I know you told me today, Mr. Tefelsky, they are on order. I'm just wondering. They look kind of, they look like this.
Yeah.
I don't think they're plexiglass, but I'm seeing do we have a promise date on those?
Yeah, 16th.
The ultra barrier boards, yeah, they're supposed to be here by the 16th, and they're coming from Chicago.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I know people are concerned when my child eats, he takes his mask off, what's going to happen. But I think the point of these barrier boards is that would prevent when his mask off and he's eating, it would help minimize any transmission.
And we are looking at more options. Mr. Kelly continues to work with the teaching staff as well as some of our parents, that have kind of, given us some suggestions. We are looking at, again, expanding, some of the seating and table areas, as well as
Sure.
just the suggestion of allowing kids to sit in bleachers, things of that nature, where they can socially distance from each other at that time. So we're looking at options at the secondary level.
Okay, great. And this are all the test results in for the football team and the coaches?
So I know that the ones that have been tested are in. I could not say if the whole team has gone for testing. I know a group went yesterday again, I believe on Sunday. And Mr. Dawson's done a great job of working with our coaching staff, who has handled this extremely well, and working with, again, the athletic department, Mr. Dawson, to keeping me updated with Mr. Kelly. So I do believe we may have a small group that has yet to be tested, but I could definitely double check. But as of right now, we know that we had two positive cases that had come through that.
Oh, that's right. Okay, thank you. This next graph, this is the state of Michigan publishes an outbreak tracking on the website and school outbreak tracking. I think I'm behind one Monday, but you can see here's Wayne County, what school. Is it a new outbreak or an ongoing outbreak? The city, what grades it affected, cumulative number of cases, or the number of people affected. This was just me adding them all up. Is it students or staff or both? And the date added to the website. So if you add these up right now, in Wayne County, there were 33 people infected so far. I think they started this mid-September or beginning of September. So, and most of them are not, you kind of look at this, 2, 3, 2, 3. this 11 one, Holy Redeemer, that's a new one. I haven't heard anything about that yet. But anyway, so, I mean, for me, I looked at this and I said, well, it's not, and I think there's a big lag. I know Mr. Felski said there's some that he had seen already that haven't shown up on here yet. But anyway, it's not a train wreck. Here, just a reminder, there's a downside to staying remote on families. This is a working class school district. And so, let's not forget that. So my particular recommendations, got to get the feedback from this week, how it went. Need data to rate remote learning is successful. I mean, some data. I hear, Calvert's terrible. Oh, Calvert's great. This, that, teachers like it. I'm not accepting the fact that people say if somebody tells me it's wonderful, it's terrible. I don't know. The remote and the virtual. So I'm skeptical when anybody says it's great or it's bad on anything, especially these. So I would consider the jury out on those. We got to get the 3-side shields. I love the hybrid options and timing, but this can't go on forever. So I think that the team needs to be given a deadline. Easy for me to say, I'm not on the team, but we can't let it linger. The sooner we can get out some straw men, some rough structures of it, and start getting feedback, the better. We can't sit in a secret room for a month and come out with something a month from now. The information's got to be fed out as it becomes available. So I would expect to see quickly, within 2 weeks, probably, here's the 3 options, the general plan for these 3 options. We just can't let it linger. I think we should do mandatory testing for all the high schoolers before they return. And I don't accept the fact that we public school, this, that. I don't know. I know at William and Mary, they did it. 4,000 kids got tested and they caught 20 of them before they got back to school. So anyway, and then after that, every student should be tested by the end of the month. I think we got to find a way to make incremental improvements in the rooms until we can get social distance. And so, I'm talking about like, hey, don't forget, open your windows. And we should consider buying portable air purifiers. They said, I was reading the research, you can get 7 more air turns, an hour with a portable air purifier. I think we need to do more benchmarking of other schools, and I'll help do any of this. I mean, I got nothing to do. To get the best practices and to see, where's it working. I get 30 emails and every one of them has, well, I talked to my cousin in, Poughkeepsie and they did this and Woodhaven's doing this. And I heard Country Day had this. And today I went to Arno at pickup and it was really nice. It was happy. It was, like the old days. So it was very comforting. So I think it's good. And then, with the parents, shame on me. I didn't read the agenda closely. It boggles my mind that the agenda did not include anything on return to school. That's just, I can't even get my head around that. It's the giant 800-pound gorilla, and we don't even have it on the agenda, So I'll take some rap for that, but because the parents, COVID gets into the school from the community, and everybody's got to follow the protocols, avoid crowds, social distance, wash hands, wear masks. And there are numerous examples because everybody posts pictures on social media of families and students not practicing safe practices. And there's a lot of examples of parents encouraging the non-compliance. I can't tell you how many, parties or going to big events, going to fundraisers. So, we can do everything you asked us to do, But, you know, COVID comes in from the outside, and if the families aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then it's all for nothing. So, you know, and I had 2 kids graduate from Allen Park High School last year, and we didn't have a graduation party, and it sucked. But, you know, there's people that somehow, you know, and I'm going to preach, you know, I'm tired of people saying it's my freedom, it's my choice, blah, 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 on a mask. Well, if it's going to kill somebody else, you know, you really don't. So I'm not perfect at it. I'm not, but the parents really, there's some just egregious violations out there, and, you know, people need to get better. So I didn't get a chance to finish this slide. Where do I stand? I really thought this was going to be a drag out, knockdown meeting. But right now I think I'm at, and I change every morning, but proceed with the plan as is, find ways to incrementally improve the situation inside the classrooms, and then, you know, expedite this hybrid investigation, and, you know, continue to allow people to opt out if they want. But I think we need to keep the ship going steady as you go with the plan we've got while they're looking at the hybrid, because what I see in the community in other schools, and I know every school's different, but it's not a complete disaster. So, you know, I personally have talked to, and, you know, and the last thing I would say, it will be the last thing I promise, is, you know, I think the something we're missing is we never survey the kids, you know, and maybe because they're younger, this, that, but, you know, we survey the parents, but they're not always aligned. So, you know, maybe that's worth asking the kids. What do you think? What do you want to do? You know, if they say, hey, I want to go to school and I understand all this, you know, it might be worth getting that input. So basically I'm steady as you go, look at the hybrid, make improvements where we can, and we got to really absorb all that feedback from this week. And that's what I got. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Pat. Nice presentation. We'll have to keep that in mind for next time. Jennifer. You're up.
I have to recollect my thoughts real quick. I'm so sorry. Pat, you're still presenting, just so you know. You might want to.
All right.
There you go. Oh, Pat, I'm so proud of you. You figured out how to get that out. Okay, so I don't want to ask anything that we already did, that Pat did. I really appreciate you guys explaining there, Rick, before we even started, why we're not meeting in person. I think that was very important. I know we did talk about that 2 weeks ago, but it's very important for the public to know that we have an Open Meeting Act law that we need to follow. So I appreciate that you brought that up. I did know that Pat touched on the discrepancy in the hours between the lower L and the upper L. Mr. Darga, you did state that you're coming up with the correct wording, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're working with the APA currently. Hope to have something out within a day or so.
I know what the APA is, but can you explain that to people that don't?
For the Allen Park Education Association, our teachers union, the administration is working with the union to you know, kind of revamp the language a bit to make sure it's more equitable.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was a big concern that I've been looking at from teachers and from parents. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing that answer. So I agree pretty much with everything that Sarah said. I asked a while ago, why can't we survey again? I was told that that's not the best option. Well, if we're all saying that so many things have changed, I feel like we should survey the community again and survey the staff again and get the answer. You know, I mean, even if it's the same survey at this point, because if so much has changed and so many different people's mindsets have changed, I feel like that should happen again so we can work better to support our teachers and our community. Both need to be taken into consideration. I absolutely agree with the fact that we should be talking about this, but at the same point, it's not on the agenda. So like Sarah stated, there's so many people that weren't even going to come tonight because it's not on the agenda. I do feel like that is not fair because they're not going to be able to voice their concerns or opinions on that. I am definitely not against a hybrid plan, but like I've told you guys since July, that should have been done in July. I'm not trying to be rude about it at all, but we've been talking about that since July, and I understand why we didn't, right? Because of the survey, right? So I totally get that 100%. And now it's being brought back up. I definitely think it's worth a conversation about, but now we just put the community back in the school today, right? And now we're potentially saying, back it up, come back. I feel like that's just gonna, and we didn't even tell them that we're gonna talk about it tonight. Like, oh, whew, that doesn't sit so well with me. I do feel like different hybrid plans have the right to be talked about. I even asked 2 weeks ago, right after our last meeting, why can't we do something where the kiddos that want to stay home, or the parents that don't feel it's safe, why can't we go back to like it was in March for those kids, right? They're still staying with the same teacher. They're not getting a different teacher. The teachers were already told that they have to remain or have a Google Classroom, correct? Right? Correct. So if their Google Classroom is already there and it's already being supported, why can't we do that? So these kiddos that want to stay, and you're helping everybody. The kiddos that want to stay home can stay home. They can stay Allen Park Public School students, which is so important to me. They can stay with their teacher, which is so insanely important to me. Because I can't even imagine that. So I feel like that's a good option and should be talked about. I don't know if that's necessarily a hybrid plan, because you were saying there's so many, like you said, Mr. Arger, there's so many out there, right? I don't know if that considers a hybrid plan, but I feel like that should be looked into. I know I have some friends that 100% would do that, and they'd be so happy to be with their same teacher. And then on Wednesdays, they get to Zoom with their teacher during our half-day Zooms, and they'll get to see them. So I know that would be good. But I definitely think we should survey again so we can understand a little bit better. You also stated attendance today, 80% in the elementary and 95-ish in the middle.
Yeah, it's high 80s in the elementary and 95, I believe, in sixth grade.
I think that speaks volumes too, just to let you know. And I'm not 100% not opposed, like Sarah said as well. I'm not voting it down. I didn't vote on the first plan, right? I didn't think it was ready. So, that's the whole reason I didn't vote, so we wouldn't be having this discussion or this argument today. I feel like it should have been, I feel like all of this should have been done months ago. And I'm just being honest, like we should have been ready at the drop. So, and if we weren't going to go back, or if we were going to go back to face-to-face, or, try hybrid first and then try face-to-face. But at this point, we've already put them back in the school starting today. I was at the school today because I do have a little kid. My kid did great. I know, like Pat said, it goes here and it goes there, right? You're going to have these people that are like, that went awful. And you're going to have these people saying, that was amazing. And I know that. I'm one person. And I can tell you, for my kid, he was so excited. He did not complain about his mask. They were calling out to their friends in line. They were standing on the little paw prints, right? So for my kid, it went great. He loved his teacher. He loved being in the classroom with his teacher. I understand that's not everybody's viewpoint. I'm just letting you know how it went with mine. So kids, school, it went great today. I want to thank all those teachers, by the way, that did come into school today, and the ones that unfortunately weren't able to. I know you guys are working your butts off at either end of the spectrum, and I appreciate you so very much. And then I do have a question too about Chromebooks. I know some of these littles have to finish their NWEA testing, and now that they're back in school, When are these Chromebooks for the littles? I mean, obviously not the touchscreen because those aren't in yet, but when are they going to be distributed so that way these littles can take that NWEA testing?
So I know Adam and I know Dr. Tefelsky is getting ready to chime in here too. So I'll let Dr. Tefelsky chime in, but they're actually looking at bringing those over ASAP.
Yeah, so we were, the biggest thing that we wanted is all the critical need families were taken care of. But I sent an email to Adam and the 3 elementary principals today to see if we can get K1, 2 in the next day or two, those computers swapped out. So essentially, any kid that has a computer, please bring it to school. Over the next day or two, we'll swap it out for a new one, and then get 3 through 12 critical need families taken care of, and then starting next week, distribute them to the rest of the students in the district.
I have, John, I'm sorry. I have just a personal question. So like I didn't need Chromebooks, but now I'm going to, right?
So you're going to get one.
Okay.
We just want to swap out. We want to get back all of the old ones.
Yeah.
And then hand all of the new ones out. So we think within a week and a half, I'll give everybody a little bit of time. Within a week and a half, all 2,200 that we had will be out.
Okay. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And you guys know I'm not trying to go crazy here. I'm just expressing my heartfelt, honest opinion. And I'm just a little frustrated. I feel like so much of this should have been done such a long time ago, and we've been asking about it and talking about it. And I feel like just survey them again, find out. Know what the choices are. You know, like Jeanette pointed out that there were so many people that wanted to attend but couldn't. Well, that's great information. Let's find that out, right? You know, so we can show it to the public. And just so everybody knows, yeah, like Mr. Darga stated, only 3 of us can be on that committee. And if we have more of us, then it's considered a violation of our Open Meeting Act. So I know there's more of us, including myself, that would like to do that. But to separate or put a whole nother committee, then there's so much lost, you know. So I trust my friends there, you know, Mrs. McDonald, Mr. Klein, and Mr. Flipiak. I trust them, their viewpoints, and the knowledge that they have for it. So I just wanted to kind of point that out so you understand why we're not all in there, because trust me, we'd probably all be in there. So I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm in agreement with Sarah and Jennifer, and I have to thank Patrick. That was a lot of unanswered questions, you know, put up on the board. Took note. A lot of good questions that weren't raised. A lot of them from the emails I've been reading. I'm sure that's where you got your information. To switch to another plan right now, yeah, I agree. We're not being fair to the individuals that made plans. Do I disagree with the hybrid program? Absolutely not. I think the same as everyone else, but I'm with Pat, I think, and Jennifer and Sarah saying that we have to proceed with the plan. We have been very transparent with this plan. I mean, I read all the emails from the parents, from the teachers, from the administration, from Mr. Darga. We have not hid anything of what we were doing or when and where this is going to start. Even if we go hybrid, you know, we're going to have more discussions. I think that the administration has done a good job with sending out the information that was available to us at the time it was available, and in a timely fashion. And as far as I know, he's answered all the questions that have arisen. Were they the right answers? For some people, no. But I think that the board's been very transparent on what we were going to do. And we've had a lot of really good discussions, and it looks like we're going to have some more. But you know, I don't know where we're at as far as Mike. Were you thinking of getting some kind of vote tonight on this? It was just discussion, correct?
Me, Mike, or Mike Darga, Mike.
Pardon me?
Me, Mike, or Mike Darga, Mike.
Oh, either one of you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Darga.
Well, go ahead, Mike. You go first, and then I've got a few things.
So just as far as process and procedures, no, we had an individual board member that would like to bring up a topic. That's what we did. That does not necessarily mean that there'd be action taken on that topic tonight, especially on such a big topic like this. That's why I had said earlier, we currently have a board approved plan that we are doing. For us to then go ahead and if the board chose to make it, to revote, and redecide, that would be an action item. We would then have to recreate a whole new meeting, put that on the agenda so that we could properly advertise that, as Sarah mentioned, as well as others. This was a topic that just came up. People were not prepared for. Our audience did not know about it. So therefore, we want to make sure we stay transparent, and we would then push that off to a different date, retopic it so our community knew that this topic would be as part of a discussion, if not even a vote. But there was just more of an informational type of just talking about, where some board members felt they were, and then moving forward. I think that's why people just kind of chimed in. Mike, did I miss anything for you, Mr. Klein?
No, in that, no, I mean, the processes are there. Like, I agree that it is, it would feel like dirty pool to put a vote in there without giving the public the ability to know that was coming. That said, I mean, that's what the agenda is for, right? And we're learning these processes as we go along. This conversation, I think, is valuable. I can't imagine why we wouldn't have this on our board meeting today at all. I don't know why it wasn't on the agenda to begin with. That said, we actually put it on the board member, or on the agenda. We unanimously agreed to throw it onto the agenda. We could have turned it down and said, no, we don't even want to talk about it. So, we decided it's something worth talking about. And I think that's important, right? I know we're split as a community, as a board, as a, as a country. We're very split on a lot of these issues. This is a situation that's not going to have an answer that's going to make everybody happy. We know that, right? Whatever we do is going to upset a significant portion of our group. My issue, and the reason why I want to keep talking about it, is I don't think we have a good plan. I just feel like we did not get out in front of this. There are districts that did, and I've looked at those. I thought, wow, they really had a lot of time with community members and with board members and with teachers and with students, and they brought them all together, and they found a plan that actually seemed to be really well received within their community. We've been kind of split and trying to figure this out, and that is actually most districts, right? I talked to my colleagues around the Tri-County area, and they all unanimously say it's a mess everywhere. There's only a handful that really got out in front of this and did it well. And so, we're constantly changing and acting. And so, yes, I know we have a plan. I know we voted on it. I just don't think it sort of is one of those things that sort of happens in a way. And before long, you're kind of down this road and you're like, I don't like where we're at. And I guess that's where I'm at. I don't like where we're at. So no, I hear you. I mean, I listen to the board and my colleagues. I care deeply for all of you. I think we're a good team together. We do try to work hard together. And I think I'm on the minority on this one, and so I don't need to push it today. But I do think as we move forward that there's a lot of room for improvement on this plan, and I think we've got a lot of people out there that are very concerned. The emails I get have every day I get 10 to 12 emails that are concerned about a return to learning. So as we move forward, just know I'm not comfortable with where we're at. I agree. Today is not a day to vote on that, so I'm not pushing for that at all. But if we do, as this emerges, I think we need to keep looking at it, right? We need to keep coming back at this and continuing to find improvement. There's always a way to do this better, and I think we can. So, anyways, I think that's enough for me. I'll let anybody else who has anything else to say, and then we probably should move along.
Jeanette, give you one more chance.
I have a question. Do we need a motion to look at hybrid plans, or do we not need a motion for that? We can just do it and potentially be ready in case we need it?
I'll defer to Barb. I'll ask Barb to chime in here if she can. I do not believe we need a motion. I believe that we've created a committee. We can do that without motions from the board to create a committee to look at different hybrid plans. It's nice just to know that we have board support, and that's what we kind of monitor, that there's board support to look into this, but I don't believe we need you think, Mike?
I want to go. Can I jump in there on that?
Sure.
Like, I'm gonna say, all right, from a rule of order side, I don't think we need a motion. I'm seeing Barb and we do not need a motion, correct? But I'm going to say, no, we do not need a motion. I think we need a mandate that says, yes, let's keep looking at better plans, right? And so not only should we not say, yes, it's okay to do it, we should be saying, yes, let's keep looking for better plans. And if we come up with one, let's bring it back and talk about it. And let's see if we can figure out how to make that better, right? More planning, more energy, more work behind the scenes, trying to build a better plan cannot be a bad thing. That has to be a good thing. All right, I'll shut up.
Well, I
Okay.
completely agree with that, and I agree with what Sarah said as well earlier on, that since it wasn't on the agenda, it does feel kind of like dirty pool. But the effort, and I want anybody who is listening, and maybe Dr. Topolsky could tell us how many are tuned in tonight, but we're trying to be responsive to our constituents, to our parents, to our students with needs, to our staff with needs. That's what we're trying to do. And that's at the heart of all this, I believe. So I'm with Mike Klein on that I think we need to keep searching, make sure that we are being responsive and affording as many of our students as possible equal opportunity for learning.
Thank you.
260, Mrs. McDonald.
How many?
260, 260.
Thank you.
Everybody all set? We'll move on to superintendent's reports.
All right, thank you very much. First off, and I would like to kind of, again, expand on what was stated. I do want to remind, as well as our board knows this as they voted, but those that are watching, administratively, and again, Mr. Moynihan stated that as far as transparency, the administration presented 3 different options and 3 different plans for approval starting in the month of August. We had 1 in August and 2 in September that the board approved. And again, we can go back and look at those plans that were presented to the board. Again, the board did approve each of those steps of the way, and those are on the website. I know that sometimes people say we don't have a plan, or it's not where it needs to be. But again, those were approved and they were voted on. And that said, which is why I said earlier, we based our plan on the survey data, but things have changed. And as many have said this evening from the board members, listening to our community, listening to our staff, we adopted a plan. We're moving forward with our plan, but that doesn't mean we can't, create a committee and look into other options that may better fit our needs here in Allen Park. I think that's the important thing. I think that Jeanette just stated the same thing. And I think that's what we're doing. I think that's one of the reasons why we've got so much pride in Allen Park, is that we're not going to sit on our morals and say, hey, we created a plan, we're done, deal with it. That's not what we're saying at all. We've taken it to the next step. We're looking at options. And when those options become available through the committee, we'll do another presentation to see if the board has interest in looking at that presentation. And then we'll figure out where to go from there. But again, and I appreciate the fact that I had board support. The administration recommends plans. We don't vote. That's up to the board. And again, please look back, and I encourage even our community. Everything is on our website, every plan along the way, and it's spelled out each and every step. And as Rick stated, there's been an awful lot of communication. All of the letters home are also on the website. So to hear that we weren't really, possibly transparent, or we weren't sure, or we didn't provide enough information, I kind of got to challenge, anyone that may feel that way to go back and relook at all of the information, and relook again at the plans that were approved, which led us here today. We had a great day today in Allen Park. As I stated earlier, I was extremely excited to be visiting the buildings and seeing kids outside, seeing the families. That's what school's all about, is seeing people about and intermingling and talking. And again, they were also following all of the safety protocols that they should. I could not be more proud of the staff that were on hand today, everywhere from aides on up. Everybody was chipping in and helping the way they could of getting our little kids, our little guys back into their classes. It was very difficult for a lot of our parents. Back in the day, our kindergarten parents used to be able to walk into the classrooms with their kids and see the classroom and show them their desk. And today, they had to just do a drop-off. And that was very difficult for some of our parents. And our little kids handled it so well. They needed that last hug from mom or dad, and our parents were able to get the photos by the marquees, and we always love to see that too. But our staff really shined today. And kudos to the administration. I don't think it's said enough. Our administration works 24/7. We do not get breaks. Our administrators didn't take any time off during the summertime when all this hit, and we've been working hard. A lot of behind the scenes thing, and that goes with our staff as well. And they work together. And that's what makes each building so special. Each building has its own personality, and they work well together, and they got it done. So again, hats off to all of you. It was great seeing everybody back today, and look forward to seeing more students in the very near future coming with the next waves. Just a quick update regarding daily screening. As we begin to return students into in-person learning in the waves, I want to take this opportunity to remind parents and guardians to follow the self-screening protocols provided by Wayne County and sent to all families via eBlast. All buildings will also provide temperature checks as students are admitted to the buildings daily. And again, this is already happening at the elementaries. We have daily temperature checks happening at the elementaries. The middle school is ready to roll, and so is the high school. When high school students return back into the building, they will be prepped for their temperature checks. And Mr. Donahue, Mr. Andrews, and the team are ready to get rolling at Allen Park Middle School. I believe it could be even as far as tomorrow morning, getting ready to start temperature checks at the building. So within a week or so, the entire K-12 system will be doing temp checks at the buildings. But again, parents, you need to make sure you continue to do those at home also. The final distribution phase, one-to-one student Chromebook initiative. Special thanks to Dr. John Telfelski for researching and finding a vendor who could supply the district with the additional Chromebooks needed and for working quickly to get the order placed. Kudos to Adam Mahalik, John Berkaniak, Tim Duran, Robin Partridge, and Dave Zardelli, Pat Ward, and student Colin Mahalik for their Herculean effort of preparing 2,250 devices for distribution so we can begin getting them on our students this week. The Wayne County Regional Enhancement Millage, again, parents and staff, this is extremely important for Allen Park Public Schools. Just a reminder that this important county-wide millage renewal is on the November 3rd ballot. Allen Park is considered a receiver district in that we will receive more funds than the 2 mills that it generates. The funds are collected countywide and then distributed equally to all constituent districts and public school academics on per student basis. Complete information can be found on the district website. Please check it out and cast an informed vote. I'd also like to highlight that we had some great articles in the Allen Park Magazine. We were extremely excited about that. Please check out the Allen Park Schools pages, this new local magazine about our great school community. And we'll continue to try to keep the Allen Park, we'll get some more pages as the new issues come out. And also congratulations to Karen Gobis, who's our food service worker. She's our director of the food service program. And Karen was nominated to be a regional representative by the Great Lakes Consortium. And again, that comes with a high honor because you've got to be nominated by others to serve in those positions. And Karen was highly nominated by her peers, which means she is highly recognized for her leadership role as a food service director in Wayne County. So again, another kudos to Allen Park Public Schools and congratulations, Karen. That's it.
Citizens' comments, Mr. Topelski, you there?
I certainly am. Let me refresh just to make sure we got them all captured. And I will make sure that I do not reread the ones that I read earlier today.
Thank you.
Okay. From Maggie Shearer, throughout the course of the school figuring out the back to school plan, students have barely been addressed. Parents and staff have had surveys and updates while students are kept in the dark about when we go back. It's not fair that our opinion isn't being counted when it's our lives on the line. Mary Beth Shearer, I kindly request specific answers to the following questions. I've heard there is a task team now on hybrid planning. Is this true? Will a hybrid plan be implemented by October 26th? Since the high school has been delayed a week due to a positive testing and presuming additional students or adults unfortunately will contract the virus due to its transmissibility before October 26th, and the amount of people associated with the high school, what is the plan on returning to school when a positive test occurs before this date? Will you continue to delay school in a week? Is social distancing in the classroom a main roadblock to implementing a hybrid plan? Thank you, Mary Beth Shearer. Rebecca Rode, and Rebecca, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. With the high school being pushed back due to football players having COVID, are we ensuring the siblings of the football team that are in the middle school and elementary are quarantined as well? Maggie Shearer, the school needs to do a hybrid. If you shut down every single time there's a COVID case, we will never go back. Staying online isn't good for anyone's mental health and is only making the want to learn be diminished. We need to go back, and a hybrid is the best option. Chelsea Bianchi, good evening. Today was our first day back in kindergarten. As a teacher, I tried my best to hide my fears and true feelings from the students today. Due to this, I know most of them came home Due to this, I know most of them came home to say how great today was. Unfortunately, that was not the case. It was not a safe environment for myself or my students due to the lack of social distancing and the inability to wear masks effectively all day long. It was also not conducive to learning. It was also not a conducive learning environment. It is not acceptable to have young children sitting for a majority of the day. There was no true learning taking place due to the time it takes to manage the safety and cleaning protocols we must follow. I'm urging the district to look at other plans to help promote safety and learning, such as going back fully remote or looking into a hybrid plan so we can socially distance and allow for more movement. Tracy Branham, just wondering when questions raised from the last meeting will be answered. Also, please help me understand why you feel it is safe for my children to return, but you will not hold in-person school board meetings. Jenny Sove, I'm thankful to the options that have been given to parents for learning so far this year. However, we are on the cusp of just beginning the return to in-person learning, and many are being vocal to suspend that option. Please respect the families who chose this option to return when provided to all of us in August and have been patiently waiting. Many families have worked through this entire pandemic on the front lines and are choosing in-person learning. Smart, educated, firsthand experienced families that want a chance for kids to be inside the classroom. We've waited and waited for this opportunity. Please don't take it away because of the complainers. In my experience, I've witnessed a majority of these complaining individuals whining and not wanting to return in person are the very same people who have been traveling, vacationing, highly involved in travel sports programs, are advertising in social media, their large party gatherings, and even summer shenanigans at Park Colony, surrounded by the exact same individuals they'd be in close contact with in school. Suddenly, they're attacking our option to return in person and are proclaiming to be scared or have feelings hurt because the option now is not going their way. They have this huge opinion that contradicts their family's lifestyle the past 7 months. Please do not listen to them and do not keep us remote. Give the kids and parents a chance and keep the momentum for in-person learning going. By the way, shout out to the football coaches that have done an amazing job keeping kids safe, active, and engaged, well-balanced mentally and physically through this. They have provided sanity, leadership, loving, and fun to our kids at a time when those things are diminished. We too often underappreciate, so you appreciate them. So way to shout out the APHS coaching staff. Shelby Ivy. Thank you so much for Mr. Klein looking out for us as parents who have found ourselves in an unhappy situation with choices being given to us. Barb Pushman, please explain the hybrid plan. Please explain the hybrid plan, that I think it's supposed to be that was offered in the surveys. Shannon Marcy, thank you to Mr. Klein for being a loud voice for an alternative return to learning plan. A big thank you to the board members that are keeping the discussions open. There is a big divide in our community between those that feel comfortable going back and are ready and those who are hesitant and not so comfortable. Yes, there was a survey, remote option was offered initially, but it was under the guidelines that return to learn was safe, and some just don't feel that it is. It's okay to be on different levels. I'm a parent concerned about my son going back under this plan, as he does have a compromised immune system, but I'm very much for him being back with safer conditions. I think we all agree that we want the kids back in school. I just do not think parents should feel as if they don't have a choice. Please continue to look at other options to give us a choice. Amanda Bax. Several board members keep mentioning the virtual is an option. Mr. Scheer just stated virtual is an option. There is no waiting list. However, communication from Dr. Trafalski has been that switching to virtual now is not an option. This needs to be clarified. Amanda Bax. Mr. Darga stated in his communication yesterday, students could be called out for the day if parents were uncomfortable. However, when I did this morning, the school principal did not know how long we could do this for. Could this be clarified? How long are we able to call our children out of school without consequence? Can we call them out continuously until the hybrid plan is presented to the board? Can the board establish a date for meeting to review a hybrid plan? Sorry, Shannon Marcy, it looks like you doubled up, but this was a thank you to Mike Klein for being a loud voice. Yeah, that's the same question, or that's the same one twice. Mr. Klein, you got double kudos today. I don't want to take away your moment, but it was the same message. Julie Baker, there are no barriers at the schools currently, know where their temp checks at the middle school. Backpedaling is a must. This is not safe. Angela Pavlik, please keep in mind the virtual students and families that chose Edgenuity and would like to switch if there's an option for remote with APHS teachers. We are still struggling. Jennifer Artris, Mr. Scheer mentioned air purifiers in classrooms. My daughter has cystic fibrosis and those are not safe for her. Tina Calloway, we cannot proceed as is. We will be sent home in a week. No educated person could disagree. The hybrid plan gives us a sustainable plan for education. Ashley Leno, we as parents have been asking for hybrid option for months. The fact the district did not do it or adventure into these plans before now is not the fault of the parents and should not be taken out on the parents. The response shouldn't be, we didn't look into it before, so we're not now. We have been asking for a choice for months. Why haven't we been asked our opinion since July? Why haven't our teachers been asked? Why haven't the Calvert parents been surveyed to identify if it is truly working? At the end of the day, parents need a choice. We deserve a choice, and we have none right now. So what do? Do we just call our children out of school for further notice? Several board members had asked for a plan for months, and it has not been responded to, but no further action has been taken until now, 1 week before school returns full force. Are you going to return all students? Positive cases pop up, and before you can even come up and announce a hybrid plan, students go back remote anyways. Alexa Cooper, I have many concerns at this point. We have positive cases within Allen Park Public Schools, so why are we opening? Listening to the discussion, it is apparent that Allen Park is not prepared for a return. You do not have all the supplies needed to protect your students and staff. Seeing the pictures of students who returned today, I can completely understand the excitement. However, I'm extremely concerned about the class sizes that I saw. Close contact is considered within 6 feet or more for 15 minutes. Pictures that I saw on Facebook today would all be considered close contact. What is it going to look like with hundreds of kids being packed in schools all day? Although I appreciate the opportunity to switch to virtual with face-to-face beginning, it saddens me that I have to put my daughter in virtual and take her away from the only connection she has with her communities. Why can't she stay home safe and with the teacher she knows and see the other students? This is so important for the social-emotional well-being of the students. The district has had more than enough time to work out these things and come up with a plan. Your member stated clearly that people in the community are not following the guidelines, which in turn is putting everyone in your school at risk. It is very irresponsible to bring so many kids back to school when you are clearly not prepared, especially as cases begin to rise. Safety for our entire community should be the first concern. Elizabeth Purdy, Edgenuity is not a suitable substitute for education. My high school age children are extremely frustrated with the program, and I do not feel that they're getting acceptable education this way and will suffer academically in the long term for this. They are getting stuck in multiple areas in the program that would allow interaction with peers, such as the collaboration corner in English and lab work in science. When they get to these areas, their teachers skip the assignments so they're able to move on, but they do not actually get to do the assignments. We are worried about the PSAT prep that would traditionally happen naturally inside the classroom. My children won't receive this. My son said they missed practicing for the essay portion when school shut down at the end of the year last year. So now, when will he have the opportunity to prepare for this? We're worried about my junior's ability to be successful on his AP English exam with the college board. There is no human interaction with this program. It is depressing for all of us. If a hybrid option is in the works, please consider allowing my children to transfer into an education with human teachers while staying safe remotely at home. The Edgenuity is not equal opportunity education, and we are unable to return to in-person learning due to my son's medical issues. Thanks for your time. Misty Marker, if the hybrid method is going to take action at a later date, what happens to the kids or parents who wanted that option but are going back due to not knowing enough information in August? I think that came out wrong. Hybrid ideas for teachers were given in Barb Pushman. Hybrid ideas from teachers were given at a task force meeting over the summer, but seemed to be dismissed by administration. Why was the reopening of school not on the agenda for tonight? Let me make these last couple bigger. Amanda B, please send out another survey based on the people I've spoken with in the attendance today. The majority of the district is prepared to return. It is good for the kids. Nicole Harris, hybrid option for students. Hillary Witt, my child is a second grader and instructed to bring a workbook and textbook back and forth every day from school in the event we may have to return remote. My question is, how can we reduce the weight load our young children have to carry? My child's backpack easily weighs 15 to 20 pounds. How negatively does that impact the Chromebook that is also in her backpack? Is there alternative to the subject schedule that would allow only certain books on certain days? One last refresh. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we will have the reports of officers. We'll start with Mr. Shearer.
Okay, thanks, Rick. This is going to be a long one, but a lot has in the defense of the district, you know, we didn't graduate the seniors until like June 12th. We didn't get the direction from the state, from the governor, until June 30th. We didn't get the survey results, you could say, well, until the end of July. You know, I think the team did a Herculean effort to create a very effective remote learning plan that is in place and has been working for 2 months. So to say they didn't do anything, I think is very unfair. They developed a rigorous, effective remote learning plan over the summer, and they implemented it. So that was good. I think so I think we have, in my opinion, we've had almost too much information. I think one thing we need to improve is consolidate that and present it on the website in a understandable fashion. It's total chaos now. I couldn't even find what the return to learn plan was on the website. So, I mean, for me, I would hire a IT guy with website experience for 6 months and just do the COVID part, or find a teacher that knows how to do the COVID part, because it's a mess. If I'm a parent and I went to that website to find out what my kids were going to do when they went back to school, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. And I know because events are just overwhelming us, and you guys are understaffed. But I think in the future, all agendas got to have return to school on them. That's just a given. I think we need to see how this week goes. Let's give it a week. Let's give it a few days and see how it goes. I don't think we have enough. Everything has changed, and I get emails, and I can't sort through who wants what or who wants. I think we need a fresh round of data. I need real data to make real decisions. You can't ask me to make a decision and not tell me, okay, 80% of parents love Calvert Learning, or test scores have been this, I don't know, but something. And I got to have data on, I don't know what parents want, to be honest with you, because I get letters that says every email I got this week was, we got to have hybrid, and other, and then 95% of the people showed up to school today. What does that tell you? So I don't have enough data to make a decision on what's the best plan and what isn't. We got to get some fresh data when the smoke clears a little bit. And I think studying hybrid is absolutely worth it. We got some, yeah, we couldn't have done it 2 months ago. We had a plan. We voted on it. We said we're going to wait 5 weeks and we're going to come back October 5th. And that's exactly what we did. And we staggered the start, but we did exactly what we said we were going to do. And so, shame on me, because I know I've flip-flopped a few times on this, but, I don't think it's fair to the district to say you didn't have a plan. That's disingenuous. You came through with a plan. You got us into remote. You told us we'd be back on the 5th. We're back on the 5th. The social distancing, they've been pretty clear about that from the beginning. I was late to wake up to that, but, again, so none of this could even start until July 1st. I think we got to make incremental improvements inside the classroom any way we can. And that was a good point I didn't know that about air purifiers. But there's got to be little things we can do, open the windows, that kind of thing. I like the fact that we're doing a phase start so we can learn from wave 1 before we go on to wave 2. Personally, I think there should be a little more space in between them, but enough of that. Let's just go. And I think, I know it's hard, but I think we can pull this off. And I think the other thing people got to recognize too, there's only so many teachers. So to teach a full remote and a full in-person, there's some logistical things there to ask a teacher to teach 2 completely different classes and 2 completely different scenarios. We got to just be a little careful. But on the flip side, you can't ask me this social distancing is unacceptable. And then we say, okay, let's go hybrid. And then to come back and say, well, I can't teach two things. Everybody's going to have to give a little bit. But I think the hybrid is definitely worth studying, and definitely is worth benchmarking other schools to see, who's had the best success. And I think Mr. Tefelsky mentioned it today, maybe there's a way to create some kind of a social interaction for kids that are virtual, that's safe and by the school. So anyway, I mean, personally, I've been back and forth, and I've made that very hard on the leadership. So I'm trying to get a little more consistent, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shearer. Dr. Warren.
Hi. I was happy to hear from some of our virtual parents tonight, because you're right. That is something that we're like, okay, they signed up for virtual. It must be going great, right? So it was nice to hear from that, to kind of see where their viewpoint is. And yeah, I think if we did do a plan, whether it be called hybrid or whatever type of plan, where these kids could keep their same teacher, they would just be doing the assignments from their, teacher, just not maybe seeing them all the time, right, via Zoom or something. Do they have the option to come back? I don't know that answer, but it was interesting to see that. And then those kids would stay at home, also have lower class sizes. I can definitely see that, and definitely appreciate looking into that. I agree. These books are heavy, dude. I had to carry my kids backpack today, so I get that. I feel like, yeah, like you said, is there a way that we can keep some of these heavy books up at school? And then, if we have to go back to a remote setting, or if we switch to something different, we could do maybe like a pickup again, like we did prior, because that worked really well for me. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, and I appreciate all the work that went into it. But yeah, as a chiropractor, it's not good for these little kids to carry 25 pounds in their backpack. I can tell you that. So every day, so, keeping some of them heavy books at school might be a great idea. And just like Pat said, I'm definitely open to talking about different plans. So if and when we need them, we're ready to go. I think that I'd feel better about that. If and when we need anything, I'd feel better about that. So I guarantee not one of us on this board ever thought we'd be serving it during a pandemic, right? I mean, literally not one of us. So let alone the administration. This is tough. It's really tough. You have amazing people on this board who work together and listen to each other's opinions. And that's why we are a great board, I feel we are, because we do have different ideas and different opinions. And, we're trying to do the best that we can to do something that will make the majority of people happy. Because of course, not everything we do will. So I appreciate the letters that I'm getting that always start off by saying, thank you for all you're doing. Because we do have a thankless job, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay that it's a thankless job, but I appreciate the fact that you guys notice that we are working. I mean, there are some days that I am on the phone, like Friday, I think I was on the phone for 8 hours, between, talking to Mr. Darga and, texting different board members. And so we are definitely working every day behind the scenes as well. And I really appreciate those of you out there noticing that, for sure. And a huge shout out to every single person that worked today. The aides taking the temperatures, smiling. You could see it through their eyes, with their masks on, looking at our little kiddos. The teachers that were there. And I think, I know I'm going to get her last name wrong, so I'm so sorry, but her name was Chelsea. How she said she was scared, but she hid through it. And I appreciate that greatly, especially I know all parents do. So I definitely appreciate that. And I appreciate all the letters that I've been getting. I'm trying to respond to all of them, but I get a lot. So please be patient with me on my response. I got to work and I have 3 kids too. So I'm trying, but I appreciate you all and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. Mr. Klein?
Yeah, I took up a lot of air tonight. I won't keep you long. Yeah, I do. What you said, Jen, resonated with me. The gravity of this job has become very real, right? I don't think any of us ran for these positions with that in mind. But, you know, we take it seriously, and I appreciate everybody's trust. I'll also echo the thank you to our building staff. Those of you that made today run as smoothly as it did. Thank you. There's another wave coming. I know there's another group that will be hitting next week, and so it's going to get busier and busier. And so thank you to all of you for making it work and doing the best we can in a difficult time. Promise to keep working behind the scenes. We'll keep looking for, you know, I think we're always looking to make things better, right? We'll keep looking for a plan that works better for everybody, that tries to bring in elements that we can continue to move the whole process forward until we have a lot of these things hammered out, and we can truly say we have a plan that tries to meet the needs of everyone in our district. I think that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Michael. Mrs. McDonald?
I'd like to say how much I appreciate everybody that has reached out and contacted us. I know that in the past that wasn't always a comfortable thing to do. Been around for a long time, and I know there's a bit of a fear factor there in simply reaching out to us, but I'm glad to see that is dissipating somewhat. I'd like to thank the staff for all of their efforts and hard work. The committee we worked with today was very thought-provoking and very interested in, meeting the needs of our students, our parents, our staff. So I think that's great. And, Mike Darga stated it a number of times that a lot has changed since July and August, and a lot will continue to change. Looking at the COVID site today at noon, Michigan cases are on the rise. We're now in the at-risk category. Once again, we're at the highest rate in some areas since April. Not comforting feelings. And we have to be prepared for a multitude of things that could be happening, and keep our kids educated every step of the way. So, I'm hoping that if a new survey comes out, that our staff and our parents armed with the latest information and the reality of our school situation now, will better be able to respond to it in a way that they can feel comfortable with for themselves, for their students. And likewise, I hope the staff does the same thing. So thanks everybody for all your efforts. Look forward to continuing to work with everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jeanette. Sarah?
Thank you. The first thing I want to say is this was not the first week back to school. We went back to school 2 weeks ago with our special education teachers and some of our CTE teachers. And as a forgotten special educator myself, I just want to give a shout out to those special educators that braved the path first and brought kids back into the building first, as well as those CTE teachers. I do think that the survey is very important. I did not get one email about hybrid, not one, until about 10 days ago. There was no talk of it. So I would be interested to see as well what the change has been in the community since we have had some kids back in the building. Again, I am completely committed to continuous improvement. I have deep concerns about the class size at the high school, and I hope we continue to work towards finding options for that. And I think that's all I have to say right now. But again, thank you to everyone on this team. I appreciate working with all of you. And of course, when we signed up for this, we did not realize there was going to be a pandemic. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate all the candid conversation tonight. I think we answered a lot of questions, hopefully for the public. even though I think we've been pretty transparent the whole way through, like Mike said. I think we just have to keep plugging along. There's going to be questions. No matter what we do, there's going to be questions. Proceed with caution. Look at a hybrid situation that you're already looking at anyway. Another survey certainly would be great because things have changed. And I just appreciate everybody being on board. And at that point, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, that'll do it. Thank you very much, everyone. See you next time.
Night, everybody.